Chapter 822. Is it really that funny? Is there a need to be like this? Dongfang Wenqing was stunned. He couldn't understand why his nephew was laughing at such an inexplicable manner. Chrysanthemum Chun, what a good name. Are there chrysanthemums? Very heavy. I wonder where the chrysanthemum door opens. Is it very big or very small? Ha! Jun Moxie swayed back and forth, almost falling off his horse. What are you laughing at? Uncle Dongfang was enraged. Facing such a strong enemy, you don't even think of a countermeasure and still have the energy to laugh. What are you laughing at? Strong enemy. Jun Moxie's mouth was crooked and his eyes were slanted. He finally stopped laughing, but his shoulders were still twitching. He said fiercely, "These useless scums are strong enemies? They're known as the chrysanthemum hard to destroy, right? Uncle, just watch quietly. Watch your nephew make the entire chrysanthemum Chun family sing a chrysanthemum hard to destroy. This chrysanthemum is not easy to destroy. This chrysanthemum's foundation is quite strong." Dongfang Wenqing had no idea what her nephew was talking about. She couldn't understand the double entendre. She could only compare the strength of both sides with a realistic attitude. Rubbing her chin, she said, "Our target this time is the head of the Chun family, cloud-chasing hand, Chun Qing Tian. Wanting to kill Chun Qing Tian under the protection of countless experts. The difficulty is extremely high." Uncle Dongfang took out a scroll and passed it to Jun Moxie. "This is the detailed information on the Chun family. Kill the head of the current super family? Uncle, how did the higher-ups of the Dongfang family agree to such an absurd decision?" Jun Moxie looked through the scroll carefully and stopped laughing. He asked in puzzlement. At the same time, a strong suspicion arose in his heart. If he put aside the new powerful force on his side and only judged by the current situation of the Dongfang family, it was very unrealistic to accept this target. According to the intelligence, although the Chun family was only a secular family, in terms of strength, it could definitely be considered as a super family. Its strength was definitely not inferior to that of the Dongfang family. In fact, it was even superior in many aspects. Moreover, this was just the information on the surface. No one knew what was going on in the dark. For the Dongfang family to reappear in Jianghu after many years of silence, accepting this target could be said to be rather unwise. "The reason is because of you." Dongfang Wenqing looked at her nephew dotingly. Although the two of them had been fighting for the past few days, Uncle Dongfang was quite satisfied with his nephew. "On me? What do you mean?" Jun Moxie raised his head in puzzlement. About 1,000 years ago, the Chun family was founded by an ancestor. But at that time, the newly founded Chun family was at most a very small family. Although it developed to a certain extent, its strength was still lingering in the ranks of the third-rate families. It did not make much of a difference. But 500 years ago, the Chun family unexpectedly produced an amazing legendary figure. Since then, the Chun family has stood tall and strong. Until now, it is still able to dominate a region. That legendary figure who single-handedly made the Chun family flourish. I believe you are not unfamiliar with him. That person is the wind and cloud hand, Chun Chong. After that Chun Chong made his debut, within a few months, his name spread throughout the entire Xianxian continent. Then, he rushed all the way to the pinnacle of Xianqi and became a supreme martial artist before the age of 50. His fame was so great that it could be said that he was unparalleled. At that time, the name of the wind and cloud martial artist was a living legend. Then, this person joined the three holy lands and became the wind and cloud martial artist. The wind and cloud martial artist. But now, it is said that the wind and cloud hand, Chun Chong, this Chun family legend that has lasted for hundreds of years, has fallen in the hands of your master. Jun Moxie let out a long sigh. So that's how it is. He had more or less understood what was going on. The unexpected death of the saint-level Chun Chong is undoubtedly a great loss for the Hermitage. But for the Chun family, the backing that they have been relying on is gone. It is like the sky has collapsed. A mocking smile appeared on Dongfang Wenqing's lips. After confirming the news of Chun Chong's death, the Jun family retreated to Tian Fa. The Chen family swore to take revenge, but they could not find their target. Besides, how could a worldly family like them provoke an expert that even Qin Chong could not defeat? But at this time, the Dongfang family that is closely related to you officially announced their return to the world. The Chun family naturally targeted us to vent their anger. They even announced that they will not rest until one of us is dead. Jun Moxie shook his head slightly. A strange feeling of not knowing whether to laugh or cry rose in his heart. From the looks of it, no matter what, there must be a cause and effect. Even if they could not find the culprit, as long as they had the intention to take revenge, they would be able to find a corresponding target no matter what. No matter how shallow the relationship between the target and the original target was, or how laughable the reason was, or even if it was completely illogical, it would always become an excuse for some people to do things. In this world, the so-called excuse was so easy to come by. Because of these excuses, killing and robbing became a legitimate method. Right now, the Chen family was like this. They did not have the guts or the strength to find trouble with the Jun family in Tian Fa. Instead, they wanted to vent their anger on another family. Such actions were not only despicable, but also extremely despicable. Right after the Chen family made their announcement, we immediately received a request. A trace of mockery appeared in Dongfang Wenqing's eyes. And the one who issued this request was another super family, the Zhan family. This matter is so coincidental that it is extremely laughable. Zhan family? Why is the Zhan family's request so laughable? Jun Moxie furrowed his brows. The word Zhan reminded him of something. The beautiful face of the Snake King surfaced in his mind. It was as if the power of Zhan Mubai's palm still appeared in front of his eyes. A cold, killing intent appeared in his eyes. That's right. It's a request from the Zhan family, an extremely laughable request. Many years ago, that Zhan family had an old ancestor who entered the Three Holy Lands Hermitage. Although it's been a long time, there's still evidence. Also, the Zhan family and Chun family have always had a good relationship. In terms of affiliation, both families are vassals of the Hermitage, and there has never been any conflict between them. Two families that have a good relationship with each other, and one of them sends out such a commission to kill the other family's patriarch. Isn't this commission laughable? Dongfang Wenqing sneered and said, in addition, there was a legend hundreds of years ago that the Chun family's legendary genius, Wind and Cloud Hand, Chun Chong, was a disciple of an expert from the Zhan family who entered the Three Holy Lands. So for so many years, the two families have always been on the same side. Now, the Zhan family has issued a request to assassinate the Chun family head. This is obviously a trap. They are treating our Dongfang family as fools. So your grandmother didn't think much and decided to accept this request. It's not that these two families treat our Dongfang family as fools, but this matter is basically a challenge from the two families to the Dongfang family. Jun Moxie finally understood. Now that the Dongfang family has returned to the pugilistic world, facing such a strong enemy's naked challenge, they really can't retreat no matter what. Once he retreated, his reputation would fall to the ground. So this is not a request, but a letter of challenge. When the old lady of Dongfang personally made the decision to accept this request, it was equivalent to accepting the declaration of war from the other two super families. Old Madame Dongfang's attitude towards life was unusually tough and decisive, iron-blooded and decisive. Facing the provocation of the two families, she actually accepted the challenge without hesitation. Firstly, this letter of challenge involved the reputation of the #1 assassin family of the Dongfang family. No matter what, it couldn't be blasphemed by others. Secondly, the old lady was using this action to announce to the whole world that she supported her grandson, Jun Moxie. In an instant, Jun Mo Xia understood all of this. He even understood that whether he came or not, this matter would be done by the old lady of Dongfang. With the Dongfang family's current strength, going against these two super families was undoubtedly seeking their own destruction. But the old lady still did it without hesitation. His arrival allowed the Dongfang family to have the strength to defeat their opponents. Although it was a timely help, in another sense, it was also the icing on the cake. June Moxie suddenly felt a sense of warmth in his heart. This was the blood relation. Only someone close to him would make such an unwise move for him. In terms of nationality, the Dongfang family and the Zhan family belong to the Yutang Empire. But these two families have never participated in any of the matters of the empire, and they don't allow their children to step into the official career. But these two families have many branches and leaves, and outstanding children are endless. Whether in terms of financial or military strength, they are truly giants. I believe that at this time, the two families must have made full preparations. So, our journey can be said to be difficult and dangerous, and the future is unpredictable. Dongfang Wenqing said solemnly, "Mo, Xie, you must know that we can look down on and ignore our opponents, but we must not underestimate and ignore our enemies." June Moxie nodded deeply, and the gaze in his eyes suddenly became as cruel as a vulture's. June Mo Xie had a faint feeling that this mission wouldn't be as simple as he'd imagined it to be ever since he'd found out about the cause and effect of this mission. The combined power of the Zhan family and the Chun family was, of course, far stronger than the Dongfang family. But to say that they could kill them all, it was still impossible. Since the three Holy Lands planned to take revenge, as long as there was an opportunity, they would naturally launch a thunderous blow. When a nest is overturned, there are no intact eggs. How could they allow any fish to escape the net? But since the two families did not have such strength, then the only explanation was that this place had already become a battlefield, that the three Holy Lands had used the names of these two families as a cover to set up a trap. Unfortunately, this trap battlefield now has me, June Moxie, here. The wishful thinking of the three Holy Lands was destined to fail. June Moxie laughed coldly in his heart. Chapter 823. June Moxie made a decision in his heart. If this place is an invisible battlefield created by the three Holy Lands, then I'll make good use of it. First, I'll collect some interest for the blood debt, and this interest will definitely be paid with fresh blood. The sound of hoofbeats could be heard as June Moxie's group of 24 people slowly entered Chrysanthemum City. Chrysanthemum City, Chun family. In the main hall, the head of the Chun family, cloud-chasing hand Chun Qing Tian, sat at the head seat with a solemn expression. On both sides of him, there were two white-robed old men. Their eyes were closed as they sat at the side, not moving or speaking, as though they were two statues. Below, there were 2 rows of seats neatly arranged. There were a total of 40 to 50 chairs, all of which were filled with people. No one made a single sound. On everyone's faces, there was a solemn expression as though a storm was brewing, as well as a hint of battle intent. Suddenly, the sound of hooves rang out as a horse approached from afar, only stopping abruptly when it reached the courtyard. Then, a series of hurried footsteps could be heard. The 2 white-robed old men in the main hall suddenly opened their eyes at the same time, shooting out a dazzling light. "They're here!" Everyone in the main hall perked up as these 2 words appeared in their hearts. Reporting to family head, people from the Dongfang family have already entered Chrysanthemum City. A green-robed man walked into the main hall and knelt down to report. Chun Qing Tian nodded lightly and asked in a low voice, "Oh, who are they? How many people are there in this group?" The green-robed man replied, "The leader of this group is the number 1 big shot of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Wenqing. There are a total of 23 people in the group. Among them, there are 2 sky great assassins from the Dongfang family, and one is said to be a descendant of the Dongfang family. Other than that, there are another 20 followers. From their clothing and mannerisms, it is very likely that they are the family servants of that descendant. The Dongfang family is looking down on me too much. 1 Dongfang Wenqing and 2 sky great assassins, and they want to take my Chun Qing Tian's head? Could it be that after living in seclusion for so long, they have become so arrogant to actually bring a descendant here? Does they really think that Chrysanthemum City is a place where they can come and go as they please?" Chun Qing Tian laughed coldly. "Ha! only 2 sky-grade assassins, and 1 Dongfang winching to assassinate family head with just this amount of strength. What a joke. Ha! Below, a middle-aged man dressed in green robes laughed with uncontrollable joy. Master, the Dongfang family is so arrogant. This protector suggests that we give them a good taste of suffering, humiliate them to their heart's content, and then execute them with a death of 1,000 cuts. Finally, we will send Dongfang Wenqing's corpse back to the Dongfang family and officially declare war on the Dongfang family. Protector Li is Chun Saint. Big brother, the Dongfang family's actions clearly show that they do not place any importance on our Chun family. We cannot swallow this insult so easily. Chun of the 3 of Chun clan. Of his face, Brother Chun was Chun. At this moment, his face was filled with cruelty and bloodthirst. Everyone, do not be careless. The Dongfang family had never been known for direct combat. Instead, they were known for their sinister assassinations. The Dongfang family's sky-grade assassins can even kill Tianxian experts and escape unscathed. One of the 2 white-robed men beside Chun Qing Tian spoke. The Dongfang family's Dongfang Wenqing was originally only at Shun Xian's 3rd-grade cultivation. I don't know what kind of fortuitous encounter he had, but his strength suddenly rose. Right now, Dongfang Wenqing is probably at least at the superior supreme level. If he slowly raised his head, and his cold, lightning-like eyes scanned the hall. He continued in a gloomy voice, "If you underestimate him, you will suffer greatly." Chun Qing Tian's expression turned solemn. Elder Feng is right. With Chun Qing Tian's status as the family head of the Chun family, he actually had to be so respectful to this old man. Not a single one of the people below revealed a strange expression, as though this was only natural. Clearly, they already knew the origins of these 2 people. Just now, you said that there was a young man in that group who should be a descendant of the Dongfang family? What does that young man look like? Another white-robed old man suddenly asked. From the start, he did not speak much. But now that he spoke, it seemed like he was asking about something unimportant. The green-robed man who was reporting was stunned. That young man looks extremely ugly. His face is completely black, his mouth is slightly crooked, and his eyes are one big and one small. His actions are vulgar, and he looks like a hoodlum. He definitely doesn't look like a descendant of a big family. This person was entrusted with the heavy responsibility of spying on the people from the Dongfang family. Naturally, he was a meticulous and intelligent person. Now that he described the people from the Dongfang family, there was not the slightest bit of hesitation in his words. Especially when he described Jun Moxie's appearance, it was even more vivid and lifelike. The Dongfang family is an aristocratic family of assassins and has been around for close to 1,000 years. How can there be such an unfilial descendant? The white-robed man's face darkened. The first generation looks at the food, the second generation looks at the clothes, and the third generation's reputation is not tarnished. This is what we call nobility. For close to 1,000 years, how could the Dongfang family only have tens of generations? The possibility of such a silk pants appearing is extremely small. He snorted heavily. Furthermore, the Dongfang family, Dongfang Wenqing and Dongfang Wenjian, have not had any children for many years. Only Dongfang Wendao has 2 sons. According to the records, one of Dongfang Wendao's 2 sons has just reached adulthood, and the other is still in his 20s. Although they are not considered handsome, they are still passable. This dark-skinned, vulgar young man, where did he come from? Chun Qing Tian's expression turned serious. Could it be that this is someone who has hidden his true identity? There should be no mistake. The white-robed old man said decisively. And this person is definitely an expert with extraordinary skills. This time, the Dongfang family's operation will definitely be of great use to him. As for Dongfang Wenqing, coming here with such fanfare, he might not be much of a threat. At most, he is just a target to attract attention. The crux of the matter is definitely that so-called young man. Chun Qing Tian nodded his head deeply in agreement. Turning around, he said, Immediately send people to investigate that kid's background. Pay attention to all their movements. If there is any news, report to me immediately. Yes. Third brother, keep in touch with the Jean family. Tell them to make preparations and be ready to move at any time. Yes. Big brother, the experts of the Jean family are already prepared. Also, reinforcements are outside the city. If anything happens, they can provide full support. Right at this time, the green-robed spy who had already stood up revealed a hesitant expression. The white-robed old man asked, "You still have something to say?" "Yes, it's just that this matter is a little strange. This subordinate does not dare to make a judgment." The green-robed spy paused for a moment, revealing a pondering expression. With a trace of uncertainty, he said hesitantly, "Also, what else?" The person beside him asked anxiously. Just now, this subordinate mentioned those 20 people dressed as guards. Every single one of them had a stable aura and a ferocious aura. Furthermore, this subordinate could not see through their cultivation at all. But according to this subordinate's observations, I discovered something very strange. What strange thing? Chun Qing Tian furrowed his brows. The two heaven-grade assassins from the Dongfang family seemed to be very afraid of those 20 guards. Their actions were somewhat restrained, and it could even be said that there was a faint sense of respect and flattery. Of course, this is only this subordinate's personal judgment. There is no evidence to support it. The green-robed spy furrowed his brows as he recalled. The moment he said this, the two white-robed old men revealed a serious expression. Exchanging glances, they thought of the same thing at the same time. It was still the white-robed old man who asked slowly, "Do these people have a wild and untamable aura on them? Are their bodies very muscular, very ferocious?" The moment this sentence was said, Chun Qing Tian also paid attention to it. Everyone in the hall also sat up straight and focused their attention on this green-robed spy. In everyone's hearts, they all thought of the same thing. Tian Fa Xian beasts in human form. Yes, very muscular. Each and every one of them has the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Their entire body is filled with bloodlust and ferocity, but there doesn't seem to be anything wild about them. Furthermore, they're a very disciplined group of people. The 20 of them have almost the same movements and footsteps. This kind of performance is very similar to that of seasoned soldiers. This subordinate can confirm that they are definitely not the Xian beasts of the Tian Fa forest. The green-robed spy thought for a while and finally said with certainty, "Although this subordinate has never seen a high-level Xian beast in human form before, this subordinate has grown up and taken care of all the Xian beasts in the manor. This, I can be completely sure." That's strange. The two white-robed old men looked at each other again, a puzzled expression on their faces. They had originally thought that Tian Fa Xian beasts had come to help. But after hearing the spy's words, it didn't seem like it at all. Could it be that the two of them had judged wrongly? Furthermore, those 20 people are very respectful towards that black-faced youth and Dongfang Wenqing. That's why this subordinate said that those 20 people are the family and servants of that junior disciple. The spy said the last sentence and stood up straight. This matter must be handled carefully. We must investigate carefully. The two white-robed old men said to Chun Qing Tian at the same time. Yes. Chun Qing Tian took in a deep breath, evidently having made up his mind. Chun Qing Yin stood up and said, "Regarding the Jean family, big brother, please rest assured. But as for investigating the background of that black-faced kid, who should be the most suitable person to go?" Chun Qing Yin was not an idiot. Previously, when Chun Qing Tian said that he was going to investigate, it was at most targeted at ordinary people. But based on the reports and the attitude of the two white-robed old men, it was clear that this matter had been raised to a whole new level. He could not afford to be careless. If he were to take it lightly, it would cause him to lose the entire game. Chun Qing Tian thought for a moment and said decisively, "Let Chun Qing go. Only he can handle this matter perfectly without leaving any traces. I can be at ease." Chapter 824. Caution is the parent of safety. This matter is of great importance. This operation will directly determine whether our Chun family can take a step forward. We must not be careless. Furthermore, according to the reports, the strength of the people from the Dongfang family is very mysterious. If we let others go and alert them, it will be bad. Chen Qing Tian's face was dark, but his eyes shone brightly. Although Chen Qing Yun did not understand, he did not dare to say anything. He turned around and went out to pass down the order. Chen Qing Tian watched as his third brother walked out of the hall. His expression did not change, but his heart was in turmoil. He thought to himself, "Third brother, oh third brother, the importance of this matter is not limited to the eradication of a mere Dongfang family. What we need to do is to avenge the lord of the elusive world of immortals, Lord Mo Wudao. Ancestor Chinchong has already passed away, and our Chun family no longer has any backing in the Holy Lands. In just a few generations, we will be suppressed by the other vassal families. Now that the Palace of Immortals has arranged this important matter on our heads, it's equivalent to giving us a great opportunity to not decline. If we don't do this well, I'm afraid the Chun family's good days will not last long." Thinking up to here, Chen Qing Tian's heart was filled with both joy and worry. This time, it was the first time in several generations that the three Holy Lands had arranged such an important mission for them. If they could complete this mission perfectly, to the satisfaction of the Lord of the three Holy Lands, Mo Wu Dao, at that time, as long as the old man casually bestowed a few cultivation techniques or other benefits, it would be enough for the Chun family to enjoy. In this way, although the Chun family had lost their ancestor Chinchong, as long as they had the support of the Palace of Hermitage, their overall strength would definitely increase by another level. If they failed, not only would the Chun family face the revenge of the Dongfang family, there would also be the other vassal families of the three Holy Lands. The decline of the Chun family was something to be expected. Even their current ally, the Zhan family, might not be able to do anything. If the situation really worsened, it was not hard to predict that the Chun family would be completely annihilated. Thinking of the terrifying consequences, Chen Qing Tian felt a chill run down his spine. Therefore, dealing with the Dongfang family was a great opportunity for the Chun family. But it was also a sharp blade that could destroy the Chun family. Chen Qing Tian would not allow anything to go wrong. No matter what price he had to pay, he could only succeed, not fail. Therefore, he had even sent his most valued eldest son, Chun Chun, to inquire about the news this time. In the Xian continent, there had always been an endless stream of geniuses. But in the secular world, there were only 4 outstanding geniuses. These 4 were all heirs of aristocratic families, and were collectively known as the 4 young masters. Although the 4 great young masters were considered extraordinary in terms of Xian cultivation, they weren't necessarily that strong. However, when it came to scheming and resourcefulness, they were truly the best of the best. A modest gentleman was as gentle as jade. White Jade Prince, Yu Chao Fan. An elegant gentleman, carefree like the wind. A carefree gentleman, Li Yuran. Young master of the world's edge, Duan Tianya. It was hard to find a soulmate, and he was heartbroken. The heartbroken prince, Chun Chun. Chun Chun was one of them, the heartbroken prince. Chun Chun, the greatest genius of the Chun family in the last few hundred years. Only he was different from the other 3 young masters, and could be considered an oddity among the 4 young masters. Because this Chun Chun was skilled in both martial arts and literature. His achievements in Xianqi cultivation were impressive. At such a young age, he had already reached the middle stage of the Tianxian realm. Just one step, and he would be at the peak of the Tianxian realm. And this year, he was only 26 years old. In terms of cultivation, he was even above Bailey Luo Yun, who was also known as a genius. It could even be said that if Bailey Luo Yun had not met Jun Moxie, the 2 of them would not be able to compare. Chun Chun was a legend of Xian cultivation that was second only to the ancestor Chun Chun. Chun Chun was not only highly skilled in Xian Gong, but also had outstanding literary talent and a deep mind. He was also skilled in music and was known as the Three Wonders. The Three Wonders were the zither, the flute, and the flute. Once they were played, it was melodious and captivating to the point of forgetting to leave. Sighing, although the world is big, there isn't a soulmate. That was why he had another nickname, Soulmate Hate. Once this person made a move, he was extremely ruthless and merciless. Because of this, someone came up with a song, Heartbroken Young Master Hate, Soulmate Hate. The song breaks the heart, including the arrogant Jean family. Everyone agreed that if Chun Chun continued to grow at this speed, he would become the second saint-level expert after Chin Chong. Even becoming a Saint King was an unknown. This was also the main reason why the Jean family wanted to be on good terms with the Chun family. Also, Chun Chun was engaged to the Jean family's beloved daughter, the youngest daughter of the Jean family, the Xin cultivation prodigy of the Jean family, the #1 beauty of the Yutang Empire, Jean Meng Dai. If this matter with the Dongfang family ended smoothly, Chun Xin would officially marry Jean Meng Dai after this matter, and the two families would be on the same side. Qin Shi Tian immediately used Chun Shun as his trump card. It could be said that the importance he placed on Dongfang Wenqing's group was already extremely high. Also, invite the 4 masters of the family to follow young master. We must ensure young master's safety. Qin Shi Tian thought for a while and still made this decision. Chun Shun was the future hope of the Chun family. Nothing must happen to him. Since young master Chun Shun is going out personally, then the two of us will follow him secretly. The two of us are also very interested in seeing which rising star of the Dongfang family is, and how the mysterious black-faced youth looks like. At the same time, we can also take a look and see those 20 ferocious guards, hee. The white-robed old man on the left stroked his beard and said with a smile. When he said the words ferocious, his tone was obviously heavy, revealing a hint of mockery. Many thanks for old Li's care. Qin Shi Tian was overjoyed. With these two following him, Chun Shin's safety would be even more guaranteed. Chrysanthemum City, Golden Chrysanthemum Inn. Jun Moxie's group was currently staying here. Dongfang Wenqing waved his hand and booked the entire inn with a gold ingot. Old Master Dongfang's high-profile actions caused Jun Moxie to be a little puzzled. Assassins were experts in the art of assassination. As the name suggested, the more low-profile they were, the better. But now, Dongfang Wenqing was actually doing the opposite. Why? When Jun Mo Xie asked, Dongfang Wenqing laughed bitterly. Chrysanthemum City is the Chun family's home ground. Their influence has long penetrated into every industry. I believe that even when we were a few hundred li away, the Chun family had already known about our movements. They might even know about everything. If we continue to keep a low profile, we will only become a joke to others. Why not just come out and take one step at a time? Jun Moxie laughed involuntarily. Since that's the case, I want to go out for a walk and see if there are any interesting places in Chrysanthemum City. Dongfang Wenqing stared at him for a long time. Looks like you already have an idea. Since that's the case, it's good for you to go out and take a look. However, you must be careful. Don't overexert your strength and attract unnecessary trouble. How could he not know that the crux of this mission lied on Jun Moxie? This was also the reason why the old lady of Dongfang had arranged for Jun Moxie to be by her side. Along the way, they had not concealed Jun Mo Xie's identity at all. So right now, Jun Mo Xie's identity was the biggest mystery in their group. He believed that the Chun clan had known about this a long time ago, and they, who were uncertain, would definitely think of ways to investigate Jun Moxie's background. Thus, when Jun Moxie went out this time, he had nowhere to hide. He might as well beat them at their own game. Furthermore, Dongfang Wenqing also believed that Jun Moxie definitely had his own plans and countermeasures. Thus, he was very relieved. Jun Moxie smiled. He did not bring any followers with him. Just like that, he swaggered out the door. Aren't you guys going to follow him? What if something really happens? What should we do? Although Dongfang Wenqing was very confident in Jun Moxie, she was still shocked to see him go out so sloppily. Master Dongfang, don't worry. With my young master's abilities, as long as he doesn't meet dozens of holy kings or holy emperor level experts, he will definitely be safe. Our target, the Chun family, is just a bunch of clowns. Right now, it's just that young master has other plans. Otherwise, if it was just to destroy the Chun family, there would be no need for young master to spend so much effort. Even we can do it. A member of the Heaven Destroyer team laughed. Dongfang, first master, almost choked on his own breath when he heard those arrogant words. The true master is as arrogant as the servant. Who do you think your young master is? You actually said that as long as it's not dozens of holy kings or holy emperor level experts, he will definitely be safe. Those are all legendary figures. Aren't you boasting a little too much? Do you think your young master is a deity? But when this member of the Heaven Destroyer team said this, Master Dongfang could not ask any of his other questions. He went back to his room with a dark expression to meditate. As he walked up the stairs, he stomped loudly on the stairs. When Jun Moxie walked out, he deliberately paused at the entrance of the inn for a moment. Then, he walked in the direction of the rising sun like a crab with his clothes unbuttoned. A normal east-west road was treated as a north-south road by him. With every step he took, he swayed. He seemed to occupy the entire street alone. Even the most arrogant hooligan didn't act like this in his divine sense. There were at least dozens of people rushing out from different directions around the inn, including the road he was walking on. Obviously, they were going to spread the news. I really can't do anything about my handsomeness. Jun Dashao squinted his big and small eyes and curled his lips, making his mouth look even more crooked. These people must have gone to inform the ladies of their families to come and admire this young master's peerless elegance. With a sound, he tilted his head and spat out a mouthful of saliva. He continued walking while swaying with his crab steps. Not long after, he heard someone shouting not far away. Let's go. Young Master Chun is holding a music banquet at Tongwan Hall today. If we're late, there won't be any seats left. This is a rare event that only happens once in a few years. Immediately, countless people cheered and started running while yelling. Instantly, the streets were filled with people running endlessly. Music banquet. I just came out, and there's a music banquet here, and it's organized by young Master Chun. Jun Moxie snorted and reached out his hand to grab a person who ran past him. He asked, "Where's Tongwan Hall?" The person struggled but failed. He felt like his arm was bound by a metal hoop. His muscles ached, and he said helplessly, "You don't even know Tongwan Hall? You still need to ask me?" TCH, if I knew, why would I ask you? Jun Dashao said angrily. Why you sound like you're farting? I'm drunk today. I've drunk nearly 4 bottles of beer tonight. Thankfully, I worked overtime in the morning. Well, there's another happy occasion today. Our Snake King, Qin Sun, is celebrating her birthday tomorrow. It's said that she's in her 20s. Here, I wish the Snake King eternal youth, immortality, many blessings, and eternal beauty. Chapter 825. Seeing the fiendish look on Jun Moxie's face, that person could only sigh at his bad luck, meeting such an ugly person the moment he stepped out, and from the looks of it, he was a young thug. He said with a bitter face, "It's just in front. Just follow the crowd, and you'll reach it in a short while." Jun Moxie let go of him with an O sound, and the person slipped into the crowd, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Jun Mo, Xie's mouth twitched, and he followed the crowd with a sway. That person was not wrong. This Tongwan Hall is really on the way. Knowing that this young master is heading in this direction, they actually organized some music banquet here. If I don't go, wouldn't I be letting down their good intentions? So Jun Moxie followed the principle of helping others, heading towards Tongwan Hall in the other direction at the western city gate. There are also people sprinting towards Tongwan Hall. A group of people had just stepped into the western gate, and when they heard the words music banquet and young Master Chun, they couldn't help but be startled. Among them, a slender girl with a black veil over her face snorted as she rode on her horse. Looks like this young Master Chun is quite famous. He hasn't even played the zither, and there are already so many people running over to listen. An old man beside her said carefully, "Then, young miss, should we go take a look?" "That's good. I didn't think that I would receive such a huge surprise not long after I entered Chrysanthemum City. Let me, Jean Meng, die. See how this fiancé of mine, the heartbroken young master of the Xian continent, is... That girl snorted lightly and said. Her slender legs squeezed the horse's abdomen, and the healthy horse slowly moved forward, carefully avoiding the crowd on the street. The old man's eyes revealed a loving look as he followed behind. He had watched this young miss grow up, and he had poured all his feelings into her, treating her like his own granddaughter. This year, the marriage had been set, but it was to the young master of the Chun family that he had never seen before. So he urged her to go take a look to see what this young master Chun looked like, to see if young miss would like him. Most importantly, how was this person's character? If by any chance he had a bad character, it would be better for him to plan ahead of time. With a shout, the dozens of people on horseback accelerated at the same time, following behind the young girl, heading in the direction of Tongguan Hall. People from all directions were gathering towards the center of Tongguan Hall. As Jun Moxie walked over, he realized that the closer he got to Tongguan Hall, the calmer it became. There was no noise like elsewhere. When he got closer, he saw that the crowd was densely packed. Everyone was looking up, but no one made the slightest sound. The massive building in the middle of the crowd was shockingly a 7-story building, with a plaque at the entrance, Tongguan Hall. The golden lacquer characters were dazzling, and the couplets on the left and right were. The world's elegance is celebrated together, and the world's romance is celebrated together. Just as Jun Moxie arrived at the entrance, the clear sound of a broken teapot rang out from the top of the building. The sound was ethereal, like a spring deep in the mountains, cleansing one's heart. In that instant, the thousands of people in front of Tongguan Hall fell silent. Jun Xie couldn't help but smile. He swaggered forward, and the crowd parted to make a path for him. Everyone angrily looked at his back, but they were intimidated by his tyrannical Xian strength. So they didn't dare to say anything. She watched as he walked unsteadily into Tongguan Hall like he was drunk. Just as Jun Moxie stepped into Tongguan Hall, a clear tinkling sound rang out from the top of the building. It was obvious that the heartbroken young master had already begun to play. The music was elegant and natural, without the slightest hint of smoke or fire. There was even a hint of joy in it, as if a guest had come from afar and was overjoyed. It was the song Close Bosom Friend. To the musicians of the Xian continent, there was no one who didn't know this song. There were many scholars, but this song pursued artistic conception the most. It was easy to learn, but difficult to master. There were only a few people who had reached the level of mastery of this song. To be able to reach the highest level of this song was extremely rare. Jun Moxie chuckled in his heart. The moment the zither sound rang out was the moment he stepped into Tongguan Hall. There was not the slightest bit of error, as if everything had been coordinated. It looked like this heartbroken young master was trying to express goodwill to him. And at this time, within Jun Dashao's powerful spiritual sense, he could sense that there were over 10 spiritual senses locked onto his body. But the difference in cultivation was huge. Among them, the ones with the lowest cultivation were only at Tian Xian's level, while the stronger ones were only at the first or second level of Shen Xian's level. But there were a few other spiritual senses that were surging with majestic auras. They were actually at the superior supreme level. There were also 2 extremely obscure auras that were fluctuating, faintly discernible. Jun Moxie's heart couldn't help but turn cold. To be able to conceal their cultivation like this, they had to be at least at the venerable realm, and they had to be at least at the second level venerable realm. It was truly hard to imagine that a so-called super family, like the Chun family, would actually have so many experts. This was too inconceivable. Just based on the strength before his eyes, their strength was already above that of Blizzard Silver City at its peak. A mere worldly family. No matter what, shouldn't they be this strong? In that case, the only explanation was that the majority of the people who released their divine sense were from the 3 Holy Lands. It seemed that this time, the 3 Holy Lands were determined to get the Dongfang family. But Jun Moxie faintly felt that it was a little funny. Whenever the 3 Holy Lands wanted to deal with him, they had always gradually increased their forces. They had never really paid any attention to him. So this had led to him leading the battle and counterattacking. But now, they had finally recognized his strength and decided to go all out to kill him. But for some strange reason, Jean Mubai had spread the true news that he was already dead. Mo Wudao had no way to vent his anger, so he had come to deal with his maternal uncle's family to vent his anger. But this was based on the strength of the Dongfang family, and he had come up with a plan. To be honest, the lineup that had been deployed this time was quite sufficient. The experts that had been deployed were more than enough to destroy two Dongfang family. But as luck would have it, he had come again. With the Chun family's own strength and the help from the three Holy Lands, they were certainly more than enough to deal with the Dongfang family. But if they were to use this lineup against him, it would undoubtedly be like throwing an egg against a rock. And, judging from the current situation, it seemed that he really had to take advantage of this situation. Both sides had fought a few times before. The last time he and Mei Shuiyan had come to the Dongfang family, they had been surrounded, intercepted, and fought continuously. But that was just the beginning. After that, the Battle of Blizzard Silver City could have been a decisive battle, but he had used a sword peak to bury them all. After that, in the Battle of Tianxiang City, he had single-handedly faced 6 saints. The opponent's lineup could not be said to be weak, but in the end, they had suffered a crushing defeat and had no way to return home. Now, let this chrysanthemum city that he was in become the battlefield for the 3rd decisive battle. After all, after this battle, there was no way that he could not hide anymore. He might as well take this opportunity to make a big fuss, beating his enemies until they were in pain, until they were afraid, and even until they were dead. This was always the best way to deal with an enemy. The three Holy Lands planned to borrow the strength of the worldly Zhan family and Chun family to deal with the worldly Dongfang family. But he could also use the Zhan family and Chun family as bait, letting those fellows send a few more people so that he could deal with them all at once. Jun Moxie did not make a sound as he slowly walked into Tongguan Hall. He could keenly sense that there were no less than 10 auras paying attention to him at all times, but he acted as if he had not noticed them at all. He pushed through the crowd and went up the stairs. All the way to the top of the 7th floor, the clear sound of the zither became even more pleasant. Jun Moxie looked up and saw that near the railing, there was an elegant white-robed youth sitting behind an antique zither. In front of him was a 7-string zither, and his 10 fingers were nimbly plucking the strings, emitting a clear and melodious sound, like the gurgling of spring water, clear and moving. This young man's face was like jade, and he had delicate features. He seemed to be tall as he sat there, and his expression faintly revealed a strand of loneliness and exhaustion. He sat at the extreme top of the building, and the wind blew from all directions. His snow-white clothes fluttered with the wind, causing him to seem as if he was about to ride the wind and ascend to the heavens, and he really emanated an indescribable feeling of carefreeness and transcendence. Behind him, 2 green-robed girls stood silently, a pot of incense in front of them rising in spirals. Surrounded by tens of thousands of people, this small space on the top of the building actually seemed to be filled with a sense of tranquility. Just as Jun Moxie walked up, the youth's 5 fingers brushed across the air, and the zither emitted a series of clear sounds, coming to a sudden stop. Then he raised his head, smiling at Jun Moxie with a pair of clear eyes. It was just a light lift of his head, such a simple movement, but it was already filled with elegance and grace. Jun Moxie keenly discovered that although there was a smile in the eyes of this heartbroken young master before him, it seemed to be indifferent and emotionless. There was also a kind of indescribable sorrow, and in the depths of his eyes, there was also a faint sense of helplessness. The moment he saw him, Jun Moxie inexplicably thought of another person. Li Yuran. Li Yuran and this youth before him, whether it was in terms of charm or demeanor, they were all extremely similar. That was a kind of transcendent confidence that had been accumulated for many years, a kind of aristocratic demeanor that leaked out from the bones. But a word emerged from Jun Moxie's heart. Tired. He had the demeanor, everything that should be there was there, but there was only himself. Living like this every day, wasn't it tiring? Were you living yourself, or living the demeanor, living the demeanor, living the gentleman. So Jun Moxie felt the feeling of tiredness, felt it from the bottom of his heart. So Jun Dashao casually walked in, casually sat on a chair, crossed his left leg over his right leg, and crossed his legs. Sitting leisurely, he tilted his neck and stared, snorting. An esteemed guest has come from afar. How come there isn't even a cup of tea? What kind of hospitality is this? A smile suddenly appeared on the young man's elegant face. He smiled extremely gently. His smile was actually like the most beautiful young girl in the prime of her life. There was a hint of shyness in it. However, he laughed and said, "Honored guest coming from afar is a great joy. Of course, there will be tea. Not only tea, there is also a thought." Chapter 826. As soon as he raised his hand and clapped, Jun Moxie instantly discovered that his sleeves were much wider than ordinary people's sleeves. The moment he raised his hand, his sleeves almost fell to the ground. In just a moment, a pot of steaming hot tea with a clear aroma was served and placed in front of Jun Moxie. The delicate green tea leaves tumbled in the water, adding a sense of elegance to the tranquil rooftop. "I'm Chin Chun. Brother, you must be from the Dongfang family, right?" Chin Chin smiled coolly and asked softly, "I wonder what your name is? Can you tell me?" "Well, a name is a mark. Why can't I tell you? My name is Dongfang Deshu, a collateral descendant of the Dongfang family." Jun Moxie picked up the delicate teacup and drank it in one gulp. He sighed and said, "It's really good tea. It's very fragrant." "Dashu Dongfang?" "Ha ha, Brother Dongfang. This name is very unique." Chin Chin's eyes flashed, and he said with a faint smile, "Don't think that this little brother's name is very strange, but it does have a history." Jun Mo Xie smiled and said, "Back then, on the eve of little brother's birth, my mother suddenly dreamed of a huge golden book that shone with a brilliant light. So, she named me Dashu." "Hee, I'm sorry." "I see. In this case, Brother Dongfang must be a genius." Chun Chun clapped and laughed. "Not at all. Brother Chun, it's fate that we meet. Since we feel like old friends at the first sight, why do we have to be so distant? You can just call me by my name, Dashu. Isn't that closer?" Jun Moxie said enthusiastically. Chun Chin's mouth twitched and he thought, "Dashu? Uncle? You brat. You're obviously trying to take advantage of me. Regardless of whether I call you by your nickname or your full name, this young master will still be one generation lower than you. This fellow is really annoying." Jun Moxie held his teacup and looked at him with a smile. For some reason, he felt the joy of teasing someone that he hadn't felt for a long time. The feeling of facing this fellow was extremely similar to the feeling of facing Li Yuran. The pleasure of toying with an opponent was also incomparable. However, although Li Yuran was dangerous back then, she was still somewhat reserved. However, the heartbroken young master Chun Chun in front of him, although his face was calm and his tone was gentle, there was an extremely ferocious aura emanating from his leisurely manner. Facing him was like facing the most venomous viper. Hee, Brother Dongfang is a straightforward person. Chun Chin's slender fingers moved slightly. He lowered his head and looked at his fingers. Seemingly intentionally or unintentionally, he said, "Brother Dongfang, your current appearance isn't Brother Dongfang's original appearance, right? Since Brother Dongfang also said that we are fated, I wonder if we can meet in our original appearances? Wouldn't it be a good story to tell if we can be honest with each other?" Jun Moxie suddenly smiled. Brother Chun is the one who has sharp eyes. However, in my opinion, Brother Chin's current appearance might not be your original appearance, right? I wonder if we can meet in our original appearances. Wouldn't it be a good story to tell? Chin Chun was startled. He wasn't disguised at all, but the other party said that he wasn't showing in his original appearance. What did this mean? Was he deliberately playing dumb? Or a pun? He hesitated for a moment, then forced a smile and said, "Forgive this little brother for being slow-witted, but I wonder, what does Brother Dongfang mean by this?" Jun Mo Xie sat comfortably on the chair and tapped his fingers on the table. He sighed and said, "I've been in disguise for only 2 or 3 days, that's all. But Brother Chun has worn this mask for at least 20 years. Aren't you tired?" Chen Shun was startled, the expression in his eyes changing, revealing a heartfelt sense of loneliness and helplessness. He let out a long sigh, lowered his head, lowered his eyes, and placed both hands on the strings of the zither, lightly plucking them. The sound of his zither was melodious, but it had a sense of loss to it. It was the song Feeling the Lord's Bosom. A strand of black hair fell from his head, covering half his face as it fluttered lightly in the breeze. Outside Tongwan Hall, the sound of hooves could be heard from afar, gradually getting nearer and nearer, finally stopping in front of the hall. There was a slight commotion in the crowd below, opening up a path as a group of people quietly entered Tongwan Hall. It was the people from the Zhan family, with the black-veiled girl leading the way. When the girl heard the melodious sound of the zither, she unconsciously stopped in her tracks, listening quietly. But the two people on the top floor seemed to be completely unaware. One was still playing, and the other was listening. It was as if they didn't care about what was happening outside at all. The new song that Chen Shun played was extremely short, finishing in just a moment. Chen Shun didn't raise his head as he sighed. Today, when Brother Dongfang came to this hall, Chen Shun felt that I actually met a soulmate here. To tell you the truth, when I was waiting for Brother Dongfang and setting up a few traps, I was actually quite unwilling and impatient in my heart. But when Brother Dongfang said this, I, Chen Shun, felt that coming here today was not in vain. He slowly raised his head, looking honestly at Jun Moxie. Brother Dongfang's discerning eyes are not wrong. You're right. I am indeed very tired. Really very tired. But this mask, I can no longer take it off. Because if I take off this mask, Chen Shun, will become nothing in the blink of an eye. So, ever since Jun Moxie came in, Chen Shun had been maintaining the calm and elegant temperament of a young master of an aristocratic family. Although his words were calm and natural, making people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze, but in his bones, he had always been probing and had a faint hostility. But at this moment, the words that he said were full of emotions, as if they were words from the bottom of his heart. Jun Moxie smiled and said with some sympathy, "Well said. To be honest, no matter how hypocritical the mask is, once it is worn for more than 20 years, hypocrisy will become a natural instinct. Moreover, this mask is too heavy. It's not easy to put it on, and it's even more difficult to take it off. On the mask, there are all kinds of responsibilities, right and wrong, and the suffering here, no one will truly understand if they don't personally experience it. And the person who wears this mask, while enjoying power and strength, must pay a considerable price. How can it be easily taken off?" Chen Shun took a long breath and exhaled. The expression on his face changed back and forth many times. Obviously, his mood was not calm at this moment. He closed his eyes and did not speak for a long time. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said in an extremely serious tone, "Brother Dongfang, how about playing a song for me?" His tone was full of desire. In his eyes, there was an indescribable contradiction, as if there were two thoughts in his heart that were in an extremely intense struggle. And the act of asking Jun Moxie to play the song seemed to be proving something to him, as well as giving him a reason. Jun Moxie raised his eyebrows and looked at him questioningly. He asked, "Brother Chun, you think too highly of me. I don't remember saying that I can play the zither. Brother Chun, if I say I can't, what will you do? It's hard to find a bosom friend. It's a blessing to be able to find one for a while. Hiding one's abilities may not be suitable between us." Chen Shun smiled quietly. With a sudden wave of his long sleeves, the guqin in front of him suddenly changed direction without a sound. Then, as if it was floating in the void, it slowly flew toward Jun Moxie. As it approached, Jun Moxie stretched out a hand and gently pressed down. The guqin immediately stopped in front of him. Opposite him, Chen Shun looked at him with bright eyes, sitting ramrod straight. The expression on his face was serious and eager. Jun Moxie sighed in his heart. It seemed that this young Master Chen's love for music was not a pretense. Moreover, although this person was quite shrewd and had an even more sinister personality, not to be outdone by Li Yuran, he had a more genuine temperament. He could be considered a person of character. "Very well, it's fate that we met. Today, I'll make an exception and play a song for our meeting today and also for In the Martial World, One Has No Choice. Jun Moxie said with a double meaning, his heart surging with pride. In the martial world, one's body is in the martial world, and so is one's heart. In this case, how can we not leave our own mark in the martial world in this world? The martial world dream that belongs to us Chinese youths, laughing proudly in the martial world. A bitter nostalgia appeared on Jun Moxie's face. He sighed deeply. Those distant memories, those past experiences suddenly flashed before his eyes. His hands stroked the strings of the guqin. Gently, as if subconsciously, he plucked twice. The sound of immortal Wang came out from slow to fast, from calm to full of murderous intent. There was no rhythm to speak of, but from these few simple strokes, it brought out a strong aura of the martial world. In the martial world, one has no choice. Chun murmured. His eyes suddenly bloomed with a strange light. Then, the divine light faded away, replaced by a long sigh. His face was even more confused as he murmured, "The martial world. What is the martial world? What is the martial world? The martial world is the road of no return." Jun Moxie's fingers brushed across the strings like floating clouds and flowing water. The sound of the guqin stopped instantly. However, an extremely desolate and vast aura, carrying with it an unprecedented feeling of oppression, suddenly filled the entire Tongguan Hall. Whether it was upstairs or downstairs, everyone near or far, at the same time, could clearly feel the heavy pressure of an approaching storm. Following the sound of Jun Daxiao's guqin, Chun Chen's expression was startled from his confusion. His eyes once again bloomed with a strange light as he stared at Jun Moxie. Because just the prelude created by Jun Moxie's sudden stop was already filled with the superhuman bearing of a great composer. This made Chun, who had originally given up hope, suddenly feel an inexplicable sense of hope. Jun Moxie slowly closed his eyes. In the silence, his 10 fingers suddenly fell heavily on the strings of the guqin. An impassioned and vast tune, like angry waves crashing against the shore, stirring up waves of snow thousands of feet high. In an instant, it had already covered the clear sky and the moon. Between the heavens and the earth, it was filled with an impassioned note. Iron blood, slaughter, free, unrestrained, disdainful, helpless, all sorts of emotions, all expressed in this sound of the guqin. This song belonged only to the martial world, only to the heroes of the wilderness. Thousands of mountains and rivers, I walk alone with a sword in my hand. Drunk, I wave my blade and ask the heavens, sever the threads of love and dream of beauty. In the midst of such impassioned sound of the guqin, Jun Moxie let out a long laugh and sang loudly. The ocean laughs, the surging tide on both sides, floating and sinking with the waves, remembering the present. The heavens laughs, the tides of the world, who wins and who loses, only the heavens know. The rivers and mountains laugh, the distant misty rain, the waves sweep away the mortal world. How much do you know? The cool breeze laughs, actually provokes loneliness, the lofty sentiments still remain. The common people laugh, no longer lonely, the lofty sentiments still remain, laughing foolishly. That's right, the ocean laughs. The song that laughs proudly in the martial world. One of the few songs that Jun Moxie liked the most. This song was not for Chun, nor was it for depression, but for venting, or in other words, to show off. It was to leave our mark in this world. This song, in this world, is unique to me, but I hope that everyone can play it so that I can hear it at any time. That way, I will feel like I've come home. Jun Moxie thought silently. Chapter 827. Following this heroic sound of the zither and song, with the momentum of a storm, it instantly rushed into the hearts of everyone near and far, especially the people of the pugilistic world. No matter if they were friend or foe, no matter what their original intentions were, no matter if they were loyal or evil. At this moment, in this song that had appeared for the first time in this different world, a strange resonance was born in their hearts. Pugilistic dreams. How heroic, how magnificent, how unpredictable, how helpless, how much love and hate. Quite a number of rough-looking men listened quietly. These Jianghu heroes, iron-blooded men, had a smile hanging on the corners of their mouths. Their faces were full of nostalgia, longing, and hope, as if they were recalling the ignorant Jianghu dreams of their youth. However, the corners of their eyes were a little moist, waving the sword under the heavens, holding the saber on horseback, roaring towards the heavens, laughing proudly in the pugilistic world. With an impassioned voice that seemed to pierce through the heavens, the song came to an end. It was like a peerless swordsman suddenly taking off his battle robe at his peak. Following the end of the song, what replaced it was complete silence. There was only complete silence. Everyone was speechless and seemed to be deep in thought. Two white-robed old men were sitting in a corner of Tongwan Hall, facing each other. The moment the zither sounded, their ears perked up at the same time, listening attentively. This time they were truly entranced. The zither stopped for a long time, but the two of them were still sitting there in a daze. In their ears, that passionate, heroic, and helpless song seemed to still be reverberating, as if it would not stop for 3 days. Both of their faces were a little dazed. After a long while, they finally let out a long, soft, frustrated breath. One of the old men said in a low voice, as if he was talking in his sleep, "Jiang," who the other white-clothed old man on the opposite side smiled faintly. His dry and skinny fingers gently trembled. Suddenly, a drop of turbid old tears trickled down his cheeks and dripped onto his white beard. Then, it quietly rolled down and left a little water stain on the front of his clothes before dripping onto the ground. He muttered, "The common people smile. No longer lonely, lofty sentiments are still there. Laughing foolishly, no longer lonely, ha-ha. But in this line of no longer lonely, how much loneliness has been swallowed. The lofty sentiments were still there. But where are the old friends? For the sake of the heartless Jianghu, how much have we sacrificed and how much have we lost? What have we really got?" He laughed bitterly at himself and shook his head. Finally, he picked up the wine cup on the table and drank it in one gulp with his eyes closed. It was as if he had finished his life in the Jianghu in this cup of wine, a past that he found hard to recall. On the stairs, the black-veiled girl, Jean Meng Dai, stood there in a daze. When she was walking on the stairs, she heard the sudden sound of the zither and the intense singing. She couldn't help but stop and listen quietly. Until now, she closed her eyes slightly, and her face was filled with heartfelt gratitude. After a long time, he opened his eyes as if he had just woken up from a dream. He sighed softly and said, "What a great song. This song really condensed all the joys, sorrows, and sorrows of the Jianghu. It left an endless aftertaste. The lingering charm is endless." The old man beside her sighed softly and said, "Miss is not someone of our generation in the Jianghu. How can you have such feelings? A song that sings the dreams of the Jianghu, a song that pours out the tears of the Jianghu." The black-veiled girl smiled faintly and said in a daze, "Although I have never roamed the Jianghu, I can still feel the lofty sentiments in it. This song is sung freely and played with even more lofty sentiments. But the most important thing is a thick sense of helplessness. Moreover, isn't our Zhan family itself a part of the Jianghu?" The old man was slightly startled. He then sighed and didn't say anything else. Jean Meng Dai thought for a while and said, "Since I've met such a great musician, how can I miss him? I must go up and take a look, see just who it is to be able to play such a heroic yet desolate song." Upstairs, Chen Chen's face no longer had the fake gentleness. There was only a face full of emotion. Although it was already the end of the song, he was still painstakingly memorizing and thinking. He used his hands to beat the beat, as if this song was still being played, still echoing. After a while, he raised his head and asked hurriedly, Brother Dongfang, what is the name of this song? Jun Moxie took a deep breath. His eyes revealed a look of nostalgia and reminiscence. He said faintly, "This song, let's call it the Song of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The Song of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The Song of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. What a song of the smiling, proud wanderer." Chen repeated it excitedly. His eyes shone with the light of separation and reunion. The ocean laughs, the heavens laughs, the rivers and mountains laughs, the breeze laughs, the people laughs. The smiling, proud wanderer. He, he. Since ancient times, who in the Jianghu doesn't want to laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu? But among the heroes of the world, who can laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu? Jun Moxie said desolately. Who has the right to truly laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu? Since ancient times, not a single one. Chen closed his eyes. After a while, he turned his head and said quietly, "Listening to this song of yours today is enough to show your hospitality. You can leave. Leave Chrysanthemum City. Go far away. Never set foot in Chrysanthemum City again. Because in this Chrysanthemum City, you definitely can't laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu. Or, once you step into the mud, you will never have the chance to laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu again." He suddenly turned around and looked at Jun Moxie with a burning gaze. "Just because of this song of yours, Chun really don't want to be enemies with you. If you want to leave, I will do my best to send you away. There is only one chance. Please cherish it, brother. Brother Dongfang, Chun, have been a hypocrite for a lifetime. Today, I will be sincere for once. I hope you will make a decision soon." Jun Moxie sighed slightly and smiled faintly. Then, he shook his head and looked at him with pity. He said helplessly, "I've already said, in the Jianghu, there's nothing we can do. You can't do it. I can't do it either. Chun, because of what you said just now, I will give you a chance. If you leave Chrysanthemum City now and never return to this place, you will still have the chance to laugh, proud and proud of the Jianghu. In this world, there really aren't many cute people left. I really don't want to kill you, who could be considered cute, with my own hands." Chen laughed bitterly. "There are too many helplessness in this world. Whether it is the Jianghu, the imperial court, or even the family. Isn't it the Jianghu? I have already accepted my fate. I can't even decide my own marriage, and I still want to talk about laughing, proud and proud of the Jianghu? Ha ha!" Speaking until the end, he suddenly laughed desolately, tears flowing out of his eyes. He shook his head and said, "I seem to have limitless glory, but in my bones, I am just a tool of the family. Just a tool." Brother Dongfang. Chen looked at him seriously. "It is hard to find a soulmate in this world. If you die, then I will be even more lonely." "Soulmate? You want me to be your soulmate, but unfortunately, I am not your soulmate." Jun Moxie said calmly. "You are even less my soulmate, because what I think, what I do, is to laugh proud and proud of the Jianghu." Chen couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. At this moment, a clear voice said, "Excuse me, who was the one who played the song just now?" The two turned their heads and saw a graceful girl with a black veil covering her face. She was standing gracefully at the top of the stairs, and a pair of cold eyes were looking at their faces. At this moment, Jun Moxie keenly sensed that the crowd outside had gradually dispersed, but the dozen or so divine senses that were previously hidden were gathering here. Chun's mission had already failed, because his original intention was to inquire about Jun Moxie's news, but here he suddenly felt some sympathy for Jun Moxie. The moment his attitude changed, his mission had already failed. So the people in the dark immediately changed their strategy. It looked like they were planning to capture him alive. An inexplicable mocking smile appeared in Jun Moxie's eyes, and he said lightly, "If I'm not wrong, this lady should be the Zhan family's pearl. Miss Zhan Mengdai, right?" Chun, who was standing opposite, revealed an extremely surprised and stunned expression. He had never imagined that his fiancée in name would actually appear at this place at this moment. But the expression on his face instantly turned gloomy, as if he had thought of something. The black-veiled girl, Zhan Mengdai. revealed a look of surprise. She looked at the ugly man in front of her and asked, "Who are you?" Although Jun Moxie didn't say it clearly, but he spoke before Chen Shun, which was equivalent to saying who the owner of the song was. This was very different from the image that Zhan Meng Dai had sketched in her heart. In her heart, the person who played this song should be a bold and unrestrained young man, a martial artist with lofty sentiments, a lone hero who looked down on the world with one sword, an unparalleled hero. But it shouldn't be this wretched-looking young man in front of her. Me? I'm a member of the Dongfang family. Jun Moxie smiled strangely, suddenly stood up and said, "Good tea. Good zither. I believe the follow-up arrangements are more or less prepared, right? It's time for me to leave." Chen Shan was very anxious. He suddenly stood up and said, "Let this little brother send you out. The song that laughs proudly in the martial world shouldn't become a masterpiece." At this moment, the sound of clothes flitting through the air could be heard on the roof. There were already more than 10 experts here. Chen Shan was really anxious. At this moment, he was really concerned about Jun Moxie, because at this moment, he didn't want this rare soulmate in front of him to die like this. If this great book Dongfang fell into the hands of the Chun family, Chen Shan knew better than anyone what would happen to him, especially now that the person in charge of the family was no longer a member of the Chun family. Once he was captured, everything would definitely be out of his control. So this cold-blooded, heartbroken young master was actually showing a rare display of true friendship. If you really treat me as a soulmate, then leave the martial world as soon as possible. Jun Moxie laughed loudly. Tongguan Hall, it's really not a bad place. Ha ha, drinking wine with the gentleman, the flipping of human emotions like waves. The White Prime Minister holds his sword. The Vermilion Gate is the first to arrive with a smile. The grass is all wet from the drizzle. The branches are ready to move. The spring wind is cold. The affairs of the world are fleeting. What is there to ask about? Why not lie down and enjoy the meal? At this moment, he still had a crooked eyebrow and slanted eyes, looking wretched, but he was in high spirits, displaying the carefree nature of the martial world to the fullest. At this moment, in the eyes of Chun Shun and Zhan Meng Dai, Jun Moxie seemed to have transformed into a carefree young man, disdainful in the face of strong enemies and power. At this moment, this elegance actually caused these two people who had always been proud and arrogant to be dazzled. At this moment, Jun Moxie let out a long whistle, suddenly flying up and flying out through the window. With a bang, he had already disappeared without a trace. His light laughter could still be heard in midair, as he said calmly, "Since that's the case, let's see how I laugh proudly in the martial world today. Today, I also laugh proudly in the martial world. A glass of white wine, a glass of red wine, 2 bottles of beer. I suddenly feel that I'm the hero of the world today." After drinking, I took a cab home for 19.50 renminbi. I took out 20 renminbi and said, "Keep the change." The driver said, "I really don't have the change today, only this. My head is dizzy. I want to sleep. Tomorrow, I'll make it up to you." Oh, but asking for monthly votes, asking for recommendation votes. Today, I'll use the alcohol to be shameless for once. Chapter 828. Since you're already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Stay here for a while longer. A sinister voice rang out. "Young Master Chun, we need you to give an explanation to the patriarch." Chen Chun snorted coldly and said, "Be careful." These words were directed at Jun Moxie. Jun Moxie's body had just flown out when 2 figures came to meet him head-on. "Be careful. I'm afraid the one who needs to be careful is not me." Jun Moxie laughed loudly and struck out with his palms. With 2 loud bangs, the 2 figures were sent flying into the sky like rubber balls, each spitting out a mouthful of blood in midair. Jun Moxie's figure had already made a turn in the air and landed on the roof of the building. The mastermind Chun Chen's sudden change of heart not only caught the 3 Holy Lands and the Chun family by surprise, but even Jun Moxie was caught unprepared. Chun Chen's unexpected change of heart had thrown the other party into chaos, But Jun Dashao's original plan had also gone down the drain. As the saying goes, give a peach in return for a plum. Since Qin Shun had treated him with sincerity, then he could not make things too difficult for him. In this way, his original plan of using Chun Shun to slowly draw out all the people from the 3 holy lands and then taking care of them one by one would no longer work. However, Jun Moxie did not feel any sense of loss or dejection. On the contrary, he was very happy. Although today's matter was out of the budget, it also made Jun Dashao feel that this trip was not in vain. Evil Jun Moxie, regardless of his past or present life, he had many enemies, but he had too few friends. Adding up both lives, there were at most 3 to 5 people. Someone who could appreciate each other as much as he did today was even rarer. That's right, it was appreciation. Even if they were enemies, they could still appreciate each other. Even if it was within the enemy's camp, there might still be someone who was cute. Today's Qin Shun was the same, and the only one of the 6 saints, Saint Lung Tong, was also the same. Although Jun Dashao's position and methods would not change for anyone, Qin Shun still gave Jun Moxie a strange feeling of not wanting to kill him. Therefore, Jun Moxie decided to turn the world upside down and cause a huge ruckus. He simply made everything clear and made a big ruckus. As long as the news spread out, the experts of the 3 holy lands would still come in an endless stream. This way, there wasn't much difference from the previous plan. At most, it would only increase the pressure that Jun Moxie and the others had to face, and they would lose the advantage of being unprepared. That was why Jun Moxie decided to play the song The Smiling, Proud Wanderer at this moment. On one hand, it was to fulfill a wish of Chun Chen's. On the other hand, to intensify the entire incident. On the other hand, it was to let out all the feelings that had been accumulated in his heart for a long time. Since ancient times, how many people could truly laugh proudly in the Jianghu? Me, I want to laugh proudly in the Jianghu. Chrysanthemum City. It looked like it was about to enter a bloody storm in advance. This young master had originally wanted to play a little longer, but it looks like I won't be able to anymore. Jun Moxie had just pounced onto the roof of Tongguan Hall when 4 people flew up at the same time, their palms whistling through the air, all aimed at his vital points. These people were obviously planning on capturing him alive. Although their moves were sharp, they did not use any weapons, which could be considered as being merciful. Besieged from all sides, the almost impenetrable attacks were about to reach him. However, Jun Dashao's body floated up strangely like a feather, and then suddenly froze in mid-air. In that instant, both his hands and feet rushed out at the same time. Yes, he rushed out, as if he had his own consciousness, and could attack at will, ignoring distance, space, and direction. A punch from his right hand shattered the right palm of the Tianxian expert who was charging at him from the right, and then landed a blow on his chest without any resistance. The burly man who was still in the process of pouncing had a strange look of disbelief on his face. He did not even have time to cry out in pain before his entire body was torn apart and sent flying. He was sent flying. Under the tyrannical force of Jun Moxie's fist, the 5 components connected to the burly man's body, including his limbs and head, all separated from his body at the same time. In an instant, blood poured down like a torrential rain. The next moment, 2 feet landed on the chests of 2 enemies at almost the same time. With a few crisp sounds of bones breaking, the 2 figures flailed wildly, blood spewing from their mouths as they were thrown back. Jun Moxie's body borrowed the force of the kick to do a somersault in the air, suddenly rising from his lying position in the air and leaping up. Like a rocket, he shot straight up into the sky. The sun shone brightly, and a figure with black hair flew straight up. His figure was so fast that it even made a shio sound. The edge of his robe brought out a faint shadow of green smoke. 2 figures in white flew towards him from the left and right like lightning, right under his feet. The 4 palms touched at the same time and changed direction at the same time, borrowing the force to chase up into the sky. Those 2 white silhouettes were the 2 old men in white with the most mysterious and unfathomable strength. They had originally tried to overestimate the strength of this Dong Fong great book. With the lineup in front of them, it was more than enough to deal with Uncle Dong Fong and Dong Fong Wenqing. However, they did not expect that when more than 10 experts attacked at the same time, they would be thrown into confusion by the opponent's valiant strength in the blink of an eye. Their original plan of not making a move and only watching from the sidelines was completely ruined. Looking at the situation in front of them, if the two of them did not make a move, they were afraid that this enemy would really leave, and that would be really embarrassing. Unfortunately, even if the two of them personally made a move, they still could not defeat the enemy. Although the two of them rushed over with extreme speed, Dong Fong Greatbook still easily dodged them. This Dong Fong Greatbook was really sharp. The two old men in white snorted coldly at the same time and soared into the sky, giving chase again. The momentum of Jun Moxie's body continued to rise, and his speed could be said to be peerlessly fast. However, at the moment when the two old men in white flew up at the same time and reached their fastest speed, the corner of Jun Dashao's mouth revealed a trace of a strange smile, and his body suddenly changed from flying rapidly to absolute stillness. He just quietly hovered in the sky. This change was greatly out of everyone's expectations. It also violated the basic principles of martial arts. One must know that the momentum of a leap depended on a spurt of energy. When the speed was at its peak, even if the person wanted to stop, it was almost impossible. As the saying goes, be quiet like a virgin, move like a rabbit. These two completely opposite states, if it was from the front to the back, as long as one was a master of Qigong, it would not be difficult to achieve. However, if one wanted to move from the back to the front, not only would one need to have an extremely high level of Qigong, one's own cultivation level would also need to be able to reach the pinnacle of being able to control as one wished. According to the classification of strength in Xianxian continent, it was not that no one could achieve this, but to be able to do it, one must at least be a saint-level expert, and must be a saint who was extremely proficient in Qigong. Based on the current situation, Jun Moxie suddenly stopped at this critical moment. Although the two old men in white were extremely strong, but compared to a saint-level expert, there was still a huge gap. Under the full force of their pursuit, it was impossible for them to stop immediately. The two old men could only watch as the opponent's figure got closer and closer. In the end, the two of them flew to the left and right of Jun Moxie, but still maintained a strong momentum. But at this time, Jun Moxie's attack had already arrived. Jun Moxie's lips curled into a cold smile, and his left hand pressed towards the head of the old man on the left. This white-robed old man was also considered impressive. Even in such a bad situation, he could still maintain his composure. With a loud roar, he struck out with both palms towards Jun Moxie's lower abdomen. Jun Moxie looked down from above. If this white-robed old man wanted to block the killing blow from his opponent's left hand, it was already too far away. He could only use the tactic of besieging Wei to rescue Zhao Zhao. As long as Jun Moxie was worried about the two palms that he struck toward his lower abdomen, he could avoid the blow on his head. Although his palms might not be able to kill the opponent, and he would definitely die if his head was hit, as long as this Dongfang Dashu was hit by his move, he would suffer considerable damage no matter what. In such a bad situation where enemies were surrounding him, once his combat power was not complete, his life would not last long. It was not a win-win situation, but a mutual defeat. He was sure that Jun Moxie would not be willing to fight with his life. Even if he knew that he could take advantage, he would not dare to take the risk. But the reality was far beyond his expectations. Just like how he did not expect that Dongfang Dashu had the ability to suddenly suppress the upward momentum of his body. The white-robed old man's palms, which were like thunder, struck out with a bang. Jun Moxie's body in the air suddenly flew up lightly. Like a piece of paper without any weight, it flew up with a breeze in the air. Whereas Jun Dashao's body only floated up, that heavy palm strike from before still pressed down heavily without any change. The white-robed old man's heart was shattered. At this moment, his body was still rising, and because of that desperate counterattack, it caused his rising momentum to become even more ferocious. That look, it was as though he had automatically catered to the attack. While he was busy, he tilted his head and felt a sharp wind from the palm strike brushing past his ear, as though it was a 5 million-kilogram hammer. It smashed on his right shoulder. With a crack, his shoulder bone broke. The white-robed old man stared with a pair of incredulous eyes as he fell down at a speed that was twice as fast as his ascension. At this moment, he had even forgotten the intense pain on his body and was only left with a heart full of disbelief. The moment the many palms slammed down, he sensitively felt that the other party's profound energy was like a sharp knife cutting through tofu, cutting through the protective, profound energy he had set up on his body like a hot knife through butter. Almost without any obstruction, it heavily struck his own shoulder. Even though it was a hasty defense, he was a true and solid second-level venerable. A venerable's protective, profound energy was actually destroyed by a single palm strike from the person in front of him. So while he was falling, he only had time to exclaim, "Venerable, third level." Then he landed on the roof of Tongwan Hall with a loud bang, smashing a large hole in the roof like a cannonball. His entire body fell down like a meteorite. Chapter 829. As Jun Moxie was attacking him, his other hand was chopping towards another person like a machete. The other white-robed old man was also in the midst of ascending, and was similarly caught unprepared by the opponent. A thought flashed through his mind, and he blurted out, "The world cage." Under such circumstances, the world cage was indeed the only way to overcome the current disadvantageous situation, and even to regain some initiative. But just as he uttered the first 3 words, and the power between the heavens and the earth had already begun to rapidly converge like a violent storm, he heard the 4 words that his companion had blurted out in alarm. Venerable, third level. These 4 simple words made him feel defeated, as if he had been struck by lightning. He was just about to cast the world cage, and he was forcefully swallowed it back. The world cage borrowed the power of the heavens and the earth to render the enemy unable to move, and was at the mercy of the user. It was an extremely tyrannical and very practical valiant technique. But the valiant effect of this technique had a precondition, and that was that it could only be used on opponents whose cultivation was lower than the user's. If this technique was used on an opponent whose cultivation was higher than the user's, then not only would the world cage be completely ineffective, it would instead backfire on the user in an even more ferocious manner. And at this time, his own body had displayed the world cage, but he didn't have the slightest bit of power to resist it. Once he suffered the backfire, the consequences would naturally be extremely bleak, and some might even have his spirit shattered on the spot, consigned to eternal damnation. Even if the enemy wasn't a martial saint, he was at least a third-level venerable. Otherwise, his companion wouldn't have been so shocked and wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. With such a strong enemy in front of him, how could the white-robed old man not be shocked? But the world cage had already been unleashed halfway, and then suddenly retracted, and the power of the backfire was not light either. So, the situation of the white-robed old man on the right was even worse than the former. Jun Moxie's palm had not yet reached his body, but his entire body had already fiercely trembled, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. As for the palm that followed, he didn't even have the time to activate his protective mystical chi, and was forcefully slapped head-on. He felt as if his internal organs were on fire, and flowers were falling from the sky. With a grunt, he fell down like a weight. Before his body landed on the ground, a series of cracking sounds of bones breaking could be heard. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground, unconscious. His injuries were extremely severe. The 2 venerable realm experts that the Chun family relied on had been defeated in a single move. Moreover, it was an extremely miserable defeat, and it was difficult for him to turn the situation around. Jun Moxie's body was still floating in the air, and he didn't land on the ground. He just laughed in the air and said loudly, "You want to stop the Dongfang family's assassination mission with such little ability? Ha! Chun Ching Tian, in the face of my tyrannical strength, is there any meaning to a mere scheme?" Then Jun Moxie let out a heaven-shaking laugh. His body flashed under the sunlight and disappeared. There was only an uproar below. From the beginning to the end, Jun Moxie had never wanted to kill anyone, especially the two venerables from the three holy lands, because no matter what, they had to leave a messenger alive. In this period of time, he had always wanted to take revenge crazily, but there was a feeling of using a sledgehammer to smash cotton. In the eyes of the common people, venerable realm experts were already high above. They were legendary existences. But in the hands of Jun Moxie, there was a feeling of having an unfair advantage. There was no meaning to it at all. Even if he killed them, there was no more pleasure in taking revenge. So, Jun Moxie's plan was, since I've already made my move, I'll lure a few big shots over. Let the experts of the three holy lands gather here. Let me kill to my heart's content. I'll thoroughly beat them up, injure them, and beat them to death. The other thing was Solitary Eagle, Feng Wan Yun, and the rest were leading the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer to wreak havoc in the entire continent. If they attracted the attention of the three holy lands, even with their improved strength, it would still be difficult to stop them. So, Jun Moxie wanted to use himself as bait to attract the attention of the three holy lands. This way, no matter which group it would be much smoother. Jun Moxie had been feeling very depressed during this period of time. He had been busy planning his revenge, but he knew that he couldn't get past his own heart. He didn't even dare to enter the Hongjun Pagoda. Every time he entered, Jun Moxie felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Mei Shuyan was injured because of him. She was beaten back to her original form and almost lost her life. And now, there was another Qian Sun Serpent Queen. Even with the purple spiritual energy of the Hongjun Pagoda, it could only maintain Snake King's life force. It couldn't help her recover. In other words, the Snake King would remain in a state of suspended animation for a very long period of time. Moreover, there was no concrete method to wake her up. Perhaps she could only live in a muddle-headed manner for the rest of her life. She wouldn't be able to feel anything. In the medical terms of the previous world, she would be a vegetable. Mei Shuyan's injuries were caused by helplessness. However, the Snake King had gotten injured this time because she had saved him, because of his own carelessness. At that time, he should not have come out at all, but at that time, he came out boldly. Although there was a reason why he had to come out at that time, but no reason could change the fact that Snake King was injured because of him. It was because of his appearance that Zhang Mubai's killing intent was triggered. And because of his carelessness, Snake King had to sacrifice himself to save him. And it led to such a miserable situation. If he didn't take revenge for this, how would he face the two beauties in the Hongjun Pagoda? One had yet to regain her human form, and the other was in a coma. If he didn't take revenge for this, not only would he be letting them down, he would also be letting himself down. Or perhaps he could only kill. Only by taking revenge on the three holy lands and the Misty Mansion would he be able to calm himself down a little. I don't care why you did it, or what mission you have. Since you've done something wrong, you must pay the price. Today's Tongwan Hall was just the beginning. It was just a prelude. Three holy lands come. I'll be waiting. The terrifyingly powerful Dongfang tome had already disappeared without a trace, but the hundreds of people were still standing there in a daze. What kind of power was this? Several superior supremes, several spirit Xian experts, and two venerables had joined forces to attack them. However, the other party had easily broken through their defenses and killed several of them. He had even injured two venerables with a wave of his hand. Then he had left unscathed. Everyone's hearts were filled with shock. Such a super expert. Was he really our enemy? We were about to face such a terrifying opponent. Chun Chun was still in his snow-white robe, sitting in a daze in the hall, still in his original position, not moving at all. In the moment that Jun Moxie had charged out, he had been reciting a phrase in his heart. White friends still pressed their swords. The Vermilion family is the first to laugh and play their crowns. After a long time, he laughed self-mockingly, sighing with emotion. Tongguan Hall was the property of the Chun family, and its name originally meant when someone has a joyous occasion, they play their crowns to celebrate. But when Jun Moxie's poem came out, it had a completely different meaning. White friends still press their swords. The Vermilion family is the first to laugh and play their crowns, but it had become a kind of pride and boasting. In this way, didn't this Tongguan Hall's name become a naked joke? What a great talent! Chun Chun praised in his heart. This tome, Dongfang, not to mention whether this name is real or fake, just this extraordinary poetry talent is already shocking. But he didn't know that this poem of Jun Moxie's was a blatant plagiarism. Zhan Mengdai stood there quietly, also thinking about something. Her face was covered by a black veil, and her expression couldn't be seen. But in her eyes, the color was fluctuating. It was clear that her heart was not calm. Just at this time, shouts rang out from the top of the building. Jun Moxie had already made his move outside. The two people on the top of the building only looked at each other. Before they could do anything else, with a few loud laughs and grunts of pain, the battle had already ended. Jun Moxie's figure streaked through the air amidst the laughter, and two large holes appeared on the top of the building. Two old men in white fell in front of the two of them. One had a pale face, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth, and the other was unconscious. Chun Chun turned pale with fright. Weren't these two the experts from the two holy lands that the family relied on like the Great Wall? How could they be defeated so easily? How is this possible? Chun Chun and Zhan Mengdai looked at each other, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Jun Mo, Xie's earlier song had left them in awe and admiration. Then, his poem had left them in deep thought. But his current martial prowess had left them in extreme shock. From appreciation to admiration, and then to almost worship, these three states had completely changed in a short moment. Yes, it was worship, because Jun Moxie was younger than them. This was something that could be seen even if he had disguised himself. But his achievements, no matter in which aspect, were not something that the two of them could compare to. They couldn't catch up to him even if they whipped their horses. Chun Chun suddenly understood the deeper meaning of Jun Moxie's words. If you really treat me as your soulmate, then leave the world. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Facing such a person and becoming enemies with him, it was really a great misfortune for the family. To become enemies with such a strong enemy. The Chun family probably didn't have much time left. It was better to quickly leave the world. Zhan Mengdai's eyes revealed a look of shock, and she blurted out, "Who is this person?" Chun Chun sighed and said, "Someone from the Dongfang family." He turned his head to look at Zhan Mengdai, a hint of mockery in his eyes. This person is the target of the Zhan and Chun family's alliance this time, and also one of the prerequisites for our marriage. Zhan Mengdai sucked in a breath, then said angrily and embarrassedly, "Chun Chun, what do you mean?" "Nothing." Chun Chun said desolately, "When I go back this time, I will try my best to persuade my father to leave this battle, if possible. With this person in the Dongfang family, it is definitely not something we can fight against. Even with the three holy lands as our backing, our future is still uncertain. This matter was originally planned by my father to take the family one step further, but according to my current judgment, this time, I'm afraid that before the family can rise, we will first see the destruction of the family. This is a matter of the family. I don't care. Chun Chun, I'm only a woman." Zhan Mengdai was silent for a long time before saying, "This time, I came because I heard something. The elders of the family didn't allow me to come, but I had to get to the bottom of it. Chun Chun, this matter concerns you." Chapter 830. Chun Chun was surprised. "What is it? Miss, please speak your mind. I heard that you fell in love with a maid in your family. That is, your maid. You're willing to do anything for her, and you swore for her that you would rather be single for the rest of your life. Is this true?" Zhan Mengdai said in a low voice, "Don't worry, I really don't have any other intentions. I just want to confirm it." "Ha ha, Even if it's true, so what? Chun-Shin laughed sorrowfully. She's already been locked up, and the entire family will definitely not allow this to happen. The entire family only wants our marriage, that's all. Because our marriage can strengthen the Chun family. But she can't, placing the fate and hope of the family on the painful union of a man and a woman. The two of them crying, and everyone else laughing. Isn't that very funny? It is indeed very funny. But since they want us to cry, then why should we let them laugh? Are you willing to give in just like that? Zhang Mengdai looked at him and said, I can see that in your heart, you still don't want to accept this kind of arrangement, and I, too, don't want to. Chun-Chin's eyes lit up. And miss, what do you mean? Just like that person said, why don't you withdraw from the pugilistic world? Zhang Mengdai's eyes revealed a trace of stubbornness and pain. You have a woman you love, and I, Zhang Mengdai, also have the man I love. Since both of us have no feelings for each other, why should we force each other? Withdraw from the pugilistic world. Chun-Chin murmured and didn't speak. After a while, the expression in his eyes gradually became resolute, as if he had let go of something. His entire demeanor relaxed as he said, after this matter, even if the Chun family doesn't want to withdraw, they can only withdraw. Ms. Zhang's words have reminded me. One sentence has enlightened me. Thank you for your reminder. He laughed and returned to his usual carefree self. Squinting his eyes, he said, Miss Zhang is indeed pure and intelligent. This makes me very curious. What kind of man would be able to make a fairy like Miss remember him in her heart? I wonder if I have the fortune to know the name of that lucky person? Zhang Mengdai sighed deeply, her eyes revealing a heartbroken expression. She said sadly, his status is not much higher than your servant girl's. He is only someone from a small family. Furthermore, he is an illegitimate child with no status. We met by accident. My family will not allow this to happen either. Therefore, this matter is also one of the reasons why we are engaged. Chun-Chin's eyes were filled with helplessness. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. So it turns out that Miss and I are both people who have fallen into the same predicament. I wonder what is the name of Mrs. Sweetheart? Which family did he originally belong to? Although Chun-Chin's expression was gentle and his tone sincere, the Zhang Mengdai in front of him was still his fiancée in name. If he said that he didn't mind that his fiancée had someone else in her heart, he would be lying to himself. Even if he had someone else in his heart, he would still feel the same way. This was the evil nature of humans. Chun-Chin, who was proud and arrogant, was very interested to know who it was that could suppress him. He has already been missing for a long time. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Zhang Mengdai's beautiful eyes were filled with sorrow as she looked into the distance. Her face was filled with longing as she mumbled, Bailey family. Bailey Luo Yun. That night, Chun-Chin returned to the Chun family and tried to persuade his father to give up on this mission. However, Chun-Chin Tian was still stubborn and scolded Chun-Chin. Then, he grounded Chun-Chin in the house. That night, both the Zhan and Chan families sent out messenger pigeons requesting for help. The content was more or less the same. The Dongfang family has a mysterious expert helping them. This person is unfathomable. Elder Feng and the rest were defeated in one move. We're not a match for them. Please come quickly. With the backing of the 3 holy lands, which had stood tall on the Xian continent for tens of thousands of years, how could there be any forces in the world that could resist them? How could the Dongfang family be an exception? On the same night, after Jun Moxie returned to the inn, he sent out his powerful divine sense in all directions. All the spies that were spying on them were mercilessly wiped out by Jun Moxie. Then, on the second day, the Chun family discovered that the 20-plus people from the Dongfang family had all disappeared. It was as if they had never appeared in the first place. Or perhaps they had already turned into wisps of smoke and disappeared into the world. But everyone in the Chun family knew that the people from the Dongfang family were definitely still around. It was just that they had gone from bright to dark. Right now, they had already completely blended into Chrysanthemum City. They were like a bunch of ghosts hiding in the dark, ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Chrysanthemum City. Following the disappearance of the people from the Dongfang family, the atmosphere became extremely heavy. Even the air was heavy, making it hard for one to breathe. It was as if one took a deep breath, one's throat would be choked by an invisible killer. This situation was truly strange to the extreme. First, when the Qin family did not place them in their eyes, they came with great fanfare. After displaying their strength and arousing the wariness of the Qin family, they suddenly disappeared. This kind of method was truly rare. Even if Dongfang Wenqing and the others had really left, the Qin family would not be able to rest in peace for even a moment. As long as Jun Moxi, Dongfang Wenqing, and the rest did not die, the Qin family would continue to be on high alert. An assassin who could defeat two venerables in one move was hiding in the dark, waiting to assassinate him. This terrifying fact made Chun Qing Tian shudder just thinking about it. With the sudden appearance of a nightmare, the entire Chun family could not sleep anymore. After all, the commotion caused by that Dongfang Dashu was too terrifying. His strength was too shocking. That was not an existence that the secular world could fight against. Everyone in the Chun family, as long as they had a bit of status, did not dare to sleep. Especially the target of this mission, Chun Qing Tian. The two venerables that they relied on were defeated in one move. An irresistible demonic palm could land on them at any time. How could they not be afraid? But in the next 7 days, there was no movement at all. This made everyone even more anxious. To be honest, the entire Chun family was on the verge of collapsing. Since the Dongfang family had such a powerful expert, they could just kill the target with one slap and be done with it. Was there a need to be so suspenseful? Don't look at how Chrysanthemum City looked calm and peaceful. But there was news coming from other places, and it was a series of shocking news. The Chun family had originally received news from the three Holy Lands that the Dongfang family seemed to have sent out all their top assassins. This news was undoubtedly good news to the three Holy Lands and the Chunjian and Qin clans. It was going according to their plan. However, in the past 7 days, news that exceeded their expectations came one after another. Regardless of whether the targets were protected by experts or not a single one was spared. All of them were successfully assassinated by the Dongfang family's assassins. Any one of these targets was a famous tycoon. But as the Dongfang family sent out their assassins, they all became the cornerstones of the Dongfang family's fame. If it had been those unprotected targets who had been assassinated, perhaps it would not have been surprising. However, those who had been heavily protected by the experts from the three great Holy Lands had not been spared. Even the experts from the Holy Lands who had been guarding them had either died or been injured. That was not all. What was truly frightening was that the assassins from the Dongfang family had managed to escape unscathed, killing their bait and damaging their own strength. But they still had to pay the price. Don't even mention how sullen this matter was. In just a dozen or so days, the name of the Dongfang family's assassins had spread throughout the world. After living in seclusion for 10 years, the moment they came out, there was really no one in the world that could stop them. Wherever the Dongfang family went, there was only a rain of blood. According to the rumors, the Dongfang family assassins were extremely direct and efficient in their actions. Most of the time, before they could even see their targets, they had already lost their heads. They had truly achieved the stage of killing with a single strike and fleeing 1,000 miles away, appearing and disappearing like a ghost, formless and traceless. Once they struck, they would not return empty-handed. At the same time, a shocking slogan officially sounded in the pugilistic world. Sunrise Dongfang. Only I am undefeatable. These words that everyone scoffed at when they first heard of it had now become a resounding slogan that everyone in the pugilistic world took delight in talking about. Sunrise Dongfang. Only I am undefeatable. This kind of tyrannical aura was really rarely seen since ancient times, but the current strength of the Dongfang family was truly worthy of these 8 words. Because ever since the Dongfang family reappeared in the pugilistic world, they had never tasted defeat. These shocking news made the Chun family, who were already restless in Chrysanthemum City, even more anxious. The Zhan family, who was only one city away, also felt insecure. The two families had conspired to scheme against the Dongfang family. Now, they were in a dilemma, and death could descend at any time. Right now, the Chen family was in danger of collapsing at any time. As the conspirator, how could the Zhan family be spared? This fire of war that had already been ignited would burn the Zhan family sooner or later. There was no doubt about this decision. And the news of victory from various places further confirmed that Dongfang Wenqing had absolute confidence in personally coming to Chrysanthemum City this time. As everyone knew, Dongfang Wenqing was the current #1 leading figure of the Dongfang family. He was also the #2 figure in the Dongfang family, second only to Dongfang the old lady. Now that he had personally come to Chrysanthemum City, he must have absolute confidence in doing this. And the shocking news from other places further proved the strength of the Dongfang family. Otherwise, how could the Dongfang family let such an important figure like Dongfang Wenqing be in danger and do a mission that he had no confidence in? This series of news completely overturned the original plans of the Chun, Zhan, and Holy Lands. Dongfang Wenqing coming personally was not because he had exhausted all his tricks and was staking everything on one throw, but because he was in control of the overall situation. The more Dongfang Wenqing remained dormant, the more it proved that he had a card up his sleeve. This also meant that he had absolute confidence that he could easily kill Chun Qing Tian and then leave. The battle at Tongguan Hall a few days ago proved that this guess was 200% true. 2 second-level venerables were defeated in a single move, not to mention Chun Qing Tian, who only had the strength of 4th level like Xin Xian. Chapter 831. However, news that made matters worse came one after another. News kept coming from another direction, and all of it was bad news. The entire mainland seemed to have fallen into a state of chaos. Ever since the Xikong and Duanmu families were suppressed, the businesses that the families relied on to survive were facing a terrible situation of falling apart. A portion of them were monopolized by the unfilial disciples who had betrayed their families, while the other portion was controlled by their former competitors or occupied by unknown forces. In short, the two families didn't even have a single shop or business left. They had fallen into a predicament and were almost at the end of their rope. Perhaps it was because they were at the end of their rope that it was even more shocking when there was light at the end of the tunnel. In just a few short days, the entire situation had turned around. All the businesses that originally belonged to the two families that had been forcefully occupied had all suffered a destructive blow from a mysterious force. Anyone who dared to forcibly occupy the businesses of the two families had their heads rolled to the ground without a single survivor. There was absolutely no room for tolerance. On the day of the incident, the leaders of the Xikong and Duanmu families all had witnesses and material evidence to prove that they had absolutely not participated in this earth-shattering incident. The remaining people didn't have the ability to do so even if they wanted to. Although these two families were the most suspicious, it had become an unsolved case. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell with a glance that with the meager strength of these two families, even if they had the intention, they definitely didn't have the ability to do so. Thus, the true force that had taken action was more thought-provoking. Among those forces that had been destroyed, the disciples of the two families who had betrayed their families were the most miserable. All of their corpses were hung up and exposed to the public. Although no reason was given, such a bloody scene was a silent declaration to the world. Also, the partners who had initially responded to the call to never do business with these two families had all been annihilated. In just a short span of 10 days, such unsolved cases had emerged endlessly in every corner of the mainland. Every place was brimming with a bloody rain and foul wind. Every single case and every single one of them was a debt of blood that was too horrible to look at. The ruthlessness and decisiveness of this incident had never been seen before. Those who had taken action had only killed, but they had never given any reason or stated their objective. Vast amounts of wealth and treasures that had been piled up like mountains had all been discarded like worn-out shoes. It It was as if they had only expressed one thought. I like to kill, so I will kill. Whatever I want to do, I will do. If you don't have a reason, don't ask me for a reason. As for the reason and purpose, use your imagination to the limit and think about it yourself. Think whatever you want. But all these people that died had a similarity, and that was that they'd once gone against the Seekong and Duanmu clans, framed them, or participated in some schemes against the two great clans. Although the murderer didn't say anything, these dead bodies automatically explained everything. Thus, while the Seekong and Duanmu clans were still in the dark, they unexpectedly discovered that the world seemed to have changed once again. Just a few months ago, he had turned from an aristocratic family into a destitute family that no one cared about overnight. He had been living a difficult life, and there was no reason at all. In any case, all of his clients and partners had resolutely cut off all contact with him, and even further suppressed him. Now, after only a few months, the situation had reversed once again. This time, there was also no reason, and it was equally baffling. In fact, it was even more inconceivable than the previous time. All of his partners and people that he didn't even know had all come over in a single night. First, they had sent huge gifts to express their apologies. Then, they had made a request for both sides to cooperate, and all of them had been very humble and respectful. Even compared to before, when they were like fish in water, they were even more respectful. Those conditions of cooperation were not business at all. They were basically stuffing people with large amounts of money. Everyone had a clear point of view. Even if the three holy lands were not to be trifled with, they wouldn't easily kill people and confiscate their properties. But these fellows that were doing this right now, with a single word of disagreement, their heads would fall to the ground. Which was more important? Everyone was looking at the expressions of these two clans when they spoke. Some of the rich and powerful merchants were now acting like lowly bastards, bowing and bowing. They even had to call the guards of these two clans master when they saw them. They were afraid that they would offend them with a little disrespect. Once they offended them, it was as if a calamity would immediately fall upon them. This kind of strange scene caused the two clans that had suffered grievances previously to the point where they didn't even have a place to pretend to be grandsons to feel proud and elated. That feeling was simply too comfortable. If a person had never truly lost something, they would never know how to cherish it. If they had never tasted the taste of poverty, they would never know how difficult it was to be rich. If they had never been looked down upon, they would never know how rare it was to be respected. And all of this, to have it and then lose it, and then to have it again, that kind of feeling was even more thought-provoking than living it all over again. And it even caused a huge change in one's mentality. Right now, these two clans were exactly like this. If these two clans were originally just ordinary second-rate clans, but after this incident, it was as if they were phoenixes reborn from the ashes. They had completely blossomed with a brand new attitude, advancing towards the super clans. And because of the previous incident, the second generation of the clans and the despicable parasites had all been cleared out one by one. Instead, they had become much purer. Their cohesiveness had also become much stronger. It was as if in these short few months of adversity, they had obtained an inexhaustible foundation. And this kind of foundation, in plain words, was poverty after wealth. And the greatest wealth in life was also poverty and lowliness. Only these two things were the greatest motivation for people to develop themselves. Or perhaps poverty was the greatest wealth. A person or a family being poor was not scary. Even being poor for generations was not scary, because they were already used to poverty, used to being down and out. But once you obtained wealth and power, at the peak of your glory, you suddenly fell back into poverty and down and out again. That was the most terrible and most miserable thing. And these two clans, after experiencing such adversity, stood up strongly again, regaining wealth and power. They really knew how to cherish it more than anyone else. So from then on, the Seekong and Duanmu clans became the two clans with the strictest family traditions in the entire continent, and also the two clans that developed the fastest. They stood at the peak of the Xian continent's superclans. Many years later, the Duanmu, Xikong, and Dongfang clans rose up completely, and each became a giant of a region. Duanmu in the north, Xikong in the south, and Dongfang in the south did not fall. It could be said that this incident, from beginning to end, had only lasted for a year. But again and again and again and again, completely created the three great clans. Of course, this was a story for another time. In this incident, there were those who were successful, and correspondingly, there were those who were unlucky. They were those who immediately took over the Jun family's businesses after the Jun family retreated. The Jun family was forced to retreat temporarily, but they had no intention of giving up on their businesses. The businesses that belonged to the Jun family would always belong to the Jun family. After the Jun family retreated, those who were in charge of the businesses were still the Jun family's hardcore supporters. But there was a group of people who believed that the Jun family had no chance of making a comeback. It was as if they seized everything that belonged to the Jun family in a single night. In this turmoil, these people also suffered a ruthless purge, and the purge was the most thorough. For example, the Huang family of Tianxiang. They were the enemies of the Jun family and the Dugu family. They belonged to the illusory ocean of blood's Huang Taiyang. They belonged to a third-rate family. They had wantonly invaded the Jun family's businesses when the Jun family had first secluded themselves from the world. In fact, they had taken great credit in this incident. Their entire family was exterminated, and even the place where their family was located was burned to the ground, and those who took over the Silver Blizzard City's magnificent Jewel Hall were also killed. In a short span of a month, in just a month's time, the entire Xian continent was plunged into an unprecedented reign of terror, and everyone was in danger. The Yutang Empire saw an opportunity when the Jun family retreated and the Tianxiang imperial family was about to change. Thus, they launched a war. The two countries were at war, but after hearing about this incident, the Yutang Empire immediately withdrew their troops. They directly abandoned all the cities that they had previously occupied and quickly returned to the Yutang Empire's territory. They didn't even want their own barracks anymore. Based on a rough estimate, in this 1 month, not including the deaths of the Dongfang family assassins, other vendettas, and not including the war between the two countries, the number of people who died in these inexplicable incidents was no less than 20,000. 20,000 people. This number didn't seem to be much, but these victims were all heroes with profound Xian skills. Among these people, the lowest Xianxi cultivation was at the peak of Silver Xian. The entire world from south to north, from east to west, was directly baptized in blood. And this group of murderers, none of them were ordinary people, and they were in groups like locusts passing through the country. Anyone who was related to the events mentioned above was killed without question. Another common characteristic was that they came and went like the wind, and their actions were ruthless. Once they struck, they would immediately flee. When you investigated the east, there were several incidents in the west, south, and north. In the face of such a bloody incident, the three Holy Lands immediately took action. It was unknown how many affiliated families were mobilized, but the moment they mobilized a family, it also exposed the relationship between the family and the three Holy Lands. Thus, they followed the clues and found that no one was innocent. This was equivalent to slapping the faces of the three Holy Lands fiercely. Furthermore, it wasn't just one slap, but one slap after another. It was a relentless beating. A few affiliated families were wiped out, and it was just a few slaps. And the most frustrating thing was so many people died, and there were so many mysterious murderers. But no matter how they investigated, they could not find a single one. They could not even catch a single one. This matter caused the people of the three Holy Lands to be infuriated. And at this time, Chrysanthemum City's request for help coincidentally arrived. Chapter 832. A mysterious expert has appeared in Chrysanthemum City. His strength is extremely shocking. With just one move, he defeated the combined attack of 2 second-level venerables and several superior supreme experts. Currently, this group of people has not left Chrysanthemum City yet. This was undoubtedly a target, the most obvious target. If they want to make a breakthrough, they could only start from here and follow the clues. Therefore, the 3 Holy Lands placed great importance on this matter. After careful discussion, the 3 Holy Lands unanimously came to a conclusion. To be able to defeat 2 second-level venerables in one move, and based on the situation, he definitely did not use the power of heaven and earth. Even a 4th-level venerable would not be able to achieve such a level. Then, based on this person must at least have the cultivation of a saint. It was reported that it was not just one person, but 23 to 24 people. It was said that every one of them was not an ordinary expert. Then, based on this, there was at least one saint expert among these 20-something people. If it was just one person, how would he dare to face the 3 Holy Lands? And with such a blatant provocation, if they really wanted to deal with such an expert, they had to be careful. What they were facing now was no longer just revenge. Furthermore, the 3 Holy Lands needed to regain their face. The 3 Holy Lands needed to establish their might. For 10,000 years, the 3 Holy Lands had basically stopped moving around in the pugilistic world. It looked like the people today no longer knew how terrifying the 3 Holy Lands were. They actually dared to do something like slapping a fly on a tiger's head. Therefore, after Mo Wudao consulted the Holy Emperor Palace, the few holy emperors in the palace were all enraged and gave their orders. No matter who the opponent was, they must be annihilated as soon as possible. In order to end the battle quickly and succeed in one move, the 3 Holy Lands put in a lot of effort. Each of them invited a holy emperor, 3 saints, and 6 venerables. A total of 30 supreme experts from the 3 Holy Lands rushed to Chrysanthemum City in the night. They must use the pressure of a mountain to destroy all those discordant notes in one fell swoop. And they must use the supreme deterrence to re-establish the reputation of the 3 Holy Lands. The 3 Holy Lands had their own considerations for sending such a powerful lineup. Mei Shuyan had already perished together with the 3 saints from the illusory Blood Sea. Jun Moxie had also died in Tian Fa under the sneak attack of the Holy Emperor Zhanmu Bai, and even the Snake King was involved. This power of vengeance came from Tian Fa. Apart from Tian Fa, there was probably no one else in the world that was this powerful. It was even more likely that the few remaining seniors of Tian Fa had joined forces with Jun Mo, Xie's mysterious master, to lead the Xian beasts of Tian Fa to take revenge. Perhaps this Chrysanthemum City was no longer a trap set by the 3 Holy Lands for the Dongfang family. Instead, it had become a trap set by the Tian Fa forest. So they had to be careful. In fact, in the knowledge of the 3 Holy Lands, only when Tian Fa and the Ferocious Lands sent out all their elites would they be able to achieve such terrifying results in such a short time. No matter what, they could not be treated lightly, nor could they be fooled by the appearance before them. How could the enemy expose all of their strength in front of others at once? Furthermore, there was an unparalleled villain hidden in the dark, the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters. He was the real threat. No one had forgotten, and did not dare to forget, that ever since the crazy 9 Serenities and 14 Masters came out of Tian Fa and broke free from the seal, there had been no news of him. Right now, the world was in a state of turmoil, and the 3 Holy Lands were being attacked in such a blatant way. The 9 Serenities and 14 Masters had always been a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. No one could guarantee that he would not take advantage of this opportunity to fish in troubled waters. So, it was absolutely necessary to send out such a strong force. Even the Misty Mansion, which had never cared about worldly affairs, also sent out a team of mysterious experts to cooperate with the 3 Holy Lands' actions. But this team of people made their stance clear. If the 9 serenities and 14 masters did not appear, then this group of people would not participate in worldly disputes. Mo, Wu Dao, Huyan Albua, and the rest of the 3 holy lands naturally agreed. If the 9 serenities and 14 masters did not appear with their strength, it would be too degrading if they still needed to seek help from the misty mansion, from 4 directions, 40 to 50 experts who could shake the world with just a stomp of their feet set off at the same time. They left their respective bases, and like 40 to 50 deadly arrows, they shot toward Chrysanthemum City with lightning speed and noiselessly. An inescapable net was set up in the entire world, including Mo Wu Dao and the rest. They all had a strange feeling. The decisive battle had been brought forward. But for this decisive battle to be brought forward, they had no idea who their opponent would be. The Holy Emperor Palace sent out a message. In another year, it would be the big day of the war for seizing the heavens. They had to settle the matters in front of them as soon as possible, and then everyone would immediately return to prepare for the war for seizing the heavens, regardless of casualties, regardless of right or wrong. In any case, this was the last battle in the secular world before the war for seizing the heavens. This battle could only be won, not lost, and they had to return with their strength intact. Because if this battle was lost, if these experts were to die in Chrysanthemum City, the 3 holy lands would not have enough strength to deal with the war for seizing the heavens. At that time, the 3 holy lands, which had enjoyed a reputation for 10,000 years, would become the sinners of history, forever engraved on the pillar of shame. So there could not be any mistakes in this battle. In order to ensure the victory of this battle, the Holy Emperor Palace even secretly sent out a few holy emperors to keep an eye on the movements of Chrysanthemum City. The 3 holy lands had sent out all their elites. They had to crush the enemy with the force of a thunderbolt, destroy the higher-ups of Tian Fa, and completely eliminate any future troubles. Then, with the momentum of this great victory, sweep through the pillar of heavens and expel the strange races, then turn back and encircle the entire continent to encircle the 9 serenities and 14 masters, establishing the position of the 3 holy lands in one fell swoop, then instructing the imperial powers of the world to tamper with history, burning and tampering all the previous records, letting the name of the Holy Lands dominate the world, dominating the history books. Since we've done it, we'll do it to the end. The 9 Nether First Young Master had already done something like this once. If the 9 Nether First Young Master could do it, the 3 Holy Lands can do it too. Furthermore, we're doing it for the sake of the world. We've indeed sacrificed and done it. We're heroes. We're heroes. We have the right to enjoy this glory. Furthermore, we're doing it for the sake of humanity. This is a noble slogan, a noble goal, and we're the most noble people. With such crazy thoughts, the people of the 3 holy lands finally came out in full force. Countless experts that had always existed in the legends once again stepped into the mortal world, roaming the pugilistic world, with fanaticism, with ideals. The gongs and drums were beating, ready to be triggered. The entire world was plunged into a state of mutual hostility. A heavy and oppressive atmosphere enveloped the entire continent. A storm was brewing. It could be said that the upper echelons of the 3 holy lands had already become a little fanatical in the face of such a grand goal and fame, as well as dominating the history books. Or it could be said that they had lost their minds. From a certain perspective, they were already half crazy, and their opponent, Jun Moxie, was stimulated by them to the point that he was also a little crazy under the instigation of hatred. He was also half crazy apart from that. There was another complete lunatic who had taken up another force by himself, the 9 serenities and 14 masters. This was a person who had inherited the 9 Nether First Young Master's ambition to conquer the continent as his own responsibility, a complete lunatic. The entire world had already become the battlefield of these 2 half-crazy and 1 completely crazy. The 3 holy lands were determined to obtain fame and fortune. For the sake of hatred, Jun Moxie would seek revenge, even if he had to die. As for the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters, he was a madman who would play the game of conquest, even if he had to reincarnate 10,000 times. And during this period of time, Jun Moxie was rather leisurely. Or it could be said that this kind of situation was purposely created by Jun Moxie, the most ideal situation. His original intention was to have such a spectacular showdown. The original intention of the 3 holy lands was for the sake of the world, for the sake of the people. I know, I understand, and even have a little respect. But I don't care what your original intentions are, and no matter how noble you are, these are not reasons for you to harm me. The war for seizing the heavens is imminent. I do Moxie know. I also know the serious consequences of losing the war for seizing the heavens. But this is still not a reason for me to suffer in silence. If I can't even take care of my own family and friends, what is there to talk about for the sake of the world? What rights do I have to say that it's for the sake of the world? If you don't take your mission seriously and use your glory as a reason and capital to do evil and harm others, this young master still doesn't care. I still don't care. If you guys are fine, then every one of us will be fine. But if you don't, then, so what if we all perish together? Mother of asterisk cur. I'm not the only one who dies. What big picture concept F asterisk CK off? If everyone had the big picture concept, then everyone in the world would be saints. While the 3 holy lands were preparing for war, Jun Moxie had already finished his preparations. Or it could be said that he had already finished his preparations before he left Tion Fa. Everything was ready. The only thing he lacked now was the enemy. Jun Mo Xie had a kind of stubborn, almost perverted thought. I just want to live well. I don't have any intentions of harming others. I only want to live freely, to live freely. That's all I want. If you let me live well, I will naturally return the favor and let you live better. But if you don't let me live well, then no one will have a good time. Why should you let me have a bad time, but you want to have a good time? Comparing people. How much more despicable can you get? It's all F asterisk King 1 life. So what if the 2 bodies of the powerful and abnormally powerful outsiders were joined together? There's still only one F asterisk King penis. As long as everything went according to your wishes while you were alive, even if there's a flood after death. Even if I, Jun Moxie, die, I won't know even if you dig up my corpse and grind my bones into ashes 10,000 times. But as long as I have a single breath left, no one can think of making me have a bad time. If you make me sad, then you will be even more upset. I guarantee that you will regret it, and I won't regret it. Even if I destroy this planet, this F asterisk King world is not mine. It's not Earth. From this point of view, Jun Moxie was even crazier than the 9 Nether Young Masters. Today's first chapter has arrived. There are guests at home today, and they're drinking. While I'm not drunk, I'll pass on a chapter first. After I finish drinking, I'll work hard on the second chapter. It'll be a little late, sorry. Chapter 833. At the moment, Jun Moxie was sitting leisurely on a chair with a cup of tea in a very secluded place. He had returned to his original appearance. His whole body was relaxed, and he looked extremely carefree. He looked as if he could cover himself with a quilt even if the sky fell down. He was truly at ease. Opposite him was a worried Dongfang Wenqing, Uncle Dongfang, who was also Master Da Xiao's uncle. At this moment, Dongfang Wenqing had already forgotten about the grudges between him and his nephew. His eyes and heart were filled with nothing but worry. Ever since Jun Mo Xie had returned and told him of his plans, Dongfang First Master's sighs had not stopped. Even in his dreams, he did not stop, continuing to sigh and groan. Mo Xie, I've thought about it. This matter, your decision, is still too risky. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Dongfang Wenqing said bitterly. Even if you want revenge, even if you want to get justice for us, you don't have to be so resolute. You have to act according to your capabilities. Now the battle array is fully spread out. But this is like hitting a stone with an egg. We don't even have the slightest chance of winning. I'm really worried. Uncle Dongfang was so worried that his intestines were tied up. Now he was directly in a dilemma. He did not know how many thousands of times he had cursed himself in his heart. You really deserve to die. You deserve to be trampled on. Wouldn't it have been better to let Xie follow Wen Dao and Wen Jian? He insisted that he follow him and wanted to take revenge on him. Now look at him. I've gotten myself into this mess. Life and death are secondary. But this nephew of mine is so lawless. I know about this, but dare not tell others. This is the most troubling thing. Looking at Xie, the situation has been completely unfolded. This battle is unavoidable. Who can I tell? Mother, won't the old lady be unable to sleep from now on? It's even possible that she will personally come and fight with my nephew. Tell my sister. Ever since the death of her brother-in-law, she had already lost all hope. If she were to tell her that her only child was going to fight with his life again, and it was even a battle that he had no chance of winning at all, God knows if she would collapse again and fall into a coma for another 8 to 10 years. These two might be the only two people in the world who could dissuade Jun Moxie, but Dongfang Wenqing would never dare to inform them, because he couldn't bear any of the consequences. As for Dongfang Wenjian and Dongfang Wendao, Uncle Dongfang didn't have to ask to know how they would react. They would raise their eyebrows, be surprised at first, and then radiant with joy and laughter, saying, "Good nephew. No wonder he's my nephew. He's a hero and a good son. Uncle is a hero. Nephew is a god. How can I miss out on such a crazy grand undertaking? Please wait, I want to accompany my nephew and risk my life. I'll risk my life with whoever doesn't let me go." Thinking of this, Dongfang Wenqing felt powerless. She was on the verge of tears. This nephew of hers was really a standard, thorough, and out-and-out troublemaker. But now he's roasting me on the fire, and I can only bear with it. It's really not a good feeling. What's so risky about it? Uncle, don't worry. Just watch how your good nephew, me, is going to kill everyone in front of me. Just treat it as a wonderful kung fu blockbuster. Jun Moxie said with a smile. Besides, we only have one head and one life. Who's afraid of who? When I don't have to die, I can jump off a cliff and have an adventure. But when I have to die, I'll choke to death with phlegm. Don't worry about those useless things. If I have to die, I'll die. F***ck it. I'll do whatever I want. Uncle Dongfang had been worried to death for the past few days, but he was almost choked to death by his words. You little beast. How can you talk like that? If something really happens to you, bastard, your grandmother will skin me alive. Then the sun will rise from the west. It'll be strange if your mother doesn't treat me as her enemy. I'll be deserted by everyone. Other than finding a crooked tree to hang myself, I don't have a second option. You little bastard, you bastard. Oh, you're still worried about yourself. Don't worry, it'll be fine. At least you'll be fine. Grandmother is not such an unreasonable person. Besides, I think she's quite considerate of you. She'll save face for you and everything. Jun Moxie comforted her with a smile. Dongfang Wenqing glared at him and roared with tears in her eyes. T. You're still considerate of me? Save face for me? Your uncle is almost 60 years old. Just last year, she hung me on a tree and spanked me. Save face for me. This is too much. Jun Moxie was dumbfounded. He didn't expect this dignified uncle to have such an unbearable past. Grandmother was really tough. Dongfang Wenqing sighed for a while. Finally, she stamped her feet and gritted her teeth. Fine. I don't care so much. I know myself. I've thought it through. Anyway, I'm in Chrysanthemum City, so I'll go crazy for once. No, isn't it just risking my life to accompany the nobleman? Even if I die, I'll still have to face the sky. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I'll risk my life to bring you back safely. If it really doesn't work, then we'll face the sky together. What's there for me to worry about? Mother ***. While cursing and complaining, she walked out dejectedly. Back to her room to sleep. It seemed that Uncle Dongfang had been enlightened this time. Benefactor, you've been enlightened. Jun Moxie put his palms together and said kindly. Then his body flashed and disappeared without a trace. He had entered the Hongjun Pagoda, once again entering the Hongjun Pagoda and feeling the thick heaven and earth spiritual qi. Jun Moxie was so shocked by the scene in front of him that he couldn't help but widen his eyes. In front of Jun Dashao, Mei Shuyan's snow-white petite body was sitting cross-legged, motionless. A series of crackling sounds came from her body, crisp and continuous. At the same time, Jun Moxie was pleasantly surprised to find that a small spiritual vortex had formed above Mei Shuyan's head. The huge amount of spiritual qi in the Hongjun Pagoda was crazily rushing towards it, entering the petite body through this passage. She was actually drawing the spiritual qi into her body, turning it into a substance. Mei Shuyan's current appearance could be said to be rather strange. Her body was still in the form of a Xian beast, but on top of her head, amidst the dense spiritual qi, there was a vague image of a slender and graceful figure with her hair tied high up in a cloud. That same peerless figure that he hadn't seen in a long time. The heart roams the heaven and earth, the will to defend the universe, to eliminate evil, to cut down the absurd, the heart of the ice god. This was the sign of the second level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. Jun Moxie had never imagined that Mei Shuyan's advancement would be so rapid. He hadn't been away for many days, but the moment he came in, he just happened to bump into Mei Shuyan's breakthrough. This was too shocking, wasn't it? And from the looks of it, she had already broken through to the new realm and was about to be completed successfully. Look at her, and then think of the suffering he had to endure when he broke through. Could it be that comparing people to each other really made people die? Jun Moxie couldn't help but sigh. But he didn't expect that Mei Shuyan's cultivation was already at the 4th level of the Venerable Realm, and she was only a step away from the Saint Realm. Now that she was cultivating again with ease, and with such a heaven-defying skill like the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, if her progress wasn't fast, it would really be unreasonable. Seeing that Mei Shuyan's progress was smooth, and there was no danger, Jun Dashao, who was originally surprised that the beauty was about to break through and might suffer the same pain and danger as he did in the past, finally put his uneasy heart back into his stomach. Originally, there was nothing else in his field of vision except for her, and there was nothing else. Mei Shuyan's body was right under the heaven-earth spirit vein, and the place where she had originally slept was now the body of the Snake King. While Jun Moxie was pleasantly surprised, his mood instantly became heavy. He slowly walked over and sat beside the Snake King. Looking at the beautiful sleeping face, he sighed deeply and said in a low voice, "Qian's son, why did you have to suffer that day?" Sigh. Such feelings, such intentions. How can I, Jun Moxie, bear it? How can I repay it? The Snake King didn't have any reaction and was still in a deep sleep. Although his breathing was stable and his life was no longer in danger, there was no sign of him waking up. Jun Moxie sat in a daze, sitting under the tree, sitting beside the Snake King. On the tree, specks of starlight shone down and quietly landed on him and the Qian Sun Serpent Queen. Dashao's eyes were misty, and he didn't know what he was thinking. His heart seemed very calm, but also very chaotic. He seemed to be thinking about a lot of things, but also seemed to have nothing worth thinking about. In this place, there were 2 of his lovers. One of them had been beaten back to her original state for him and his family, and was still working hard to cultivate. The other one, because of a moment of carelessness on his part, had fallen into an eternal slumber, never to wake up. All of this was because of him. At home, there was also Dugu Xiaoi and Guan Qinghan, who were looking forward to his return. His grandfather and mother were probably praying for him every day, praying that he could return safely. Every day, they were worried about his safety. As for his uncle and aunt, while they were thinking about him, they were also doing their best to prepare for their atonement project. Their grand plan was to save all the orphans in the world and give them peace and happiness. What was the purpose of living? Jun Moxie suddenly thought of this eternal question. Before his arrival, perhaps everyone had different goals. But now, Jun Moxie could basically confirm that in this world, there were many people who lived just for him. And that was it. If he was gone, his enemies would definitely laugh heartily. but many of his relatives would definitely collapse because of it. This was a responsibility that he had to bear. And this was also the motivation for Jun Moxie to live. At this moment, his mother's heart was divided into two halves. One had followed his father in the past, and the other had stayed in this world for him, and was still beating tenaciously. Igahan lived for Murong Xiao, and in the end he also died for Murong Xiao, and his aunt Han Yinyao, who swore never to look back in this life, Mei Xuan and Qian Sun, who were willing to die for him. I must let these people who care about me smile and be happy. As for those enemies, let them fall into eternal nightmares. Who asked you to choose to be enemies with me, the evil monarch? Jun Moxie let out a long breath, and his eyes turned from confusion to clarity. He murmured, "From now on, I will no longer live for myself, nor will I live for the world. I will only live for all of you who care for me." After thinking about it, Jun Moxie, who had regained his clarity of mind, sorted out his thoughts and felt a lot more relaxed. The war for seizing the heavens concerns the future of the Xian continent. Although it is important, the situation of the invasion of the foreign races is also very serious, and the consequences are even more serious. But the choice I made now is a little extreme or a little too much. But I'm not wrong. I am definitely not wrong. Cultivate one's moral character and family, then rule the country and bring peace to the world. If the family is not stable, what does the rise and fall of the world have to do with me? I have never been a great hero. I am just a lowly person with limited vision. That's all. There's a saying that goes, the government forces the people to rebel, and they have no choice but to rebel. Perhaps many people are willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the world, regardless of the consequences, regardless of the cost, but I, Jun Moxie, am definitely not one of them. I can die in the war for seizing the heavens, but I cannot be killed by you using the war for seizing the heavens as a reason. I'm not wrong, Jun Moxie said in a deep voice. As he spoke, he suddenly felt exceptionally clear and carefree in his heart. Just as he finished speaking, he felt something strange beside him. Turning his head, he saw that Mei Xuyan had already stopped cultivating and was standing in front of him, looking at him worriedly. I'm fine. I'm really fine. I just thought through some things, so I'm very good, really very good. Jun Moxie revealed a gentle but firm smile. His words were a little repetitive, but his tone became more and more firm. Mei Xuyan blinked her eyes and suddenly stretched out a claw, writing on the sand in front of her, "Give me pills." Pills? Jun Moxie's body shook, and he carefully looked at Mei Xuyan again. To his surprise, he discovered that the current Mei Xuyan had already climbed back to the peak of level 8 Xian Beast. She wanted pills now, obviously because she wanted to rush to the level where she could transform into a human form after this breakthrough. They had only not seen each other for a few days, and he really did not expect that Mei Xuyan could actually make such a huge breakthrough. One had to know that although Mei Xuyan had rushed up with all her might previously, there were very few shortcuts in the path of Xian cultivation. The further one went, the slower one's breakthrough would be. It was the same even if one were to recultivate. In Jun Moxie's estimation, he would need at least a month's time before he could return to the level 8 Xian Beast realm. But now, Mei Xuyan had actually brought this time limit forward. It was brought forward by a whole month. Looking at the determination in Mei Xuyan's eyes and the unconcealable pain, Jun Moxie's heart shook, and he suddenly understood. Snake King's injury was a great blow to him, but it was also a huge stimulus to Mei Xuyan. After Snake King's injury, Mei Xuyan, who had suffered a huge blow, must have been practicing day and night, without sleep or rest. If it were anyone else, it would not be feasible to use pills to forcefully advance. Whether it was the invasion of the heart's demons, the insufficient realm of the body, or the huge explosion of the pills, it would be enough to crush the person to death. But Mei Xuyan was different, because Mei Xuyan was cultivating the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. Secondly, Mei Xuyan was currently in the Hongjun Pagoda. Thirdly, Shape-shifting into a Xian beast only required the mental state of a peak level 9 Xian beast. But now, although Mei Shuyan's cultivation was still a distance away, her real cultivation was a solid level 4 venerable. Because she had risked her life to consume the Saint King pill, she had broken through the limits of a venerable and had reached the realm of a saint. Fourthly, the meridians in Mei Shuyan's body had been broken through by a huge force. So all the obstacles were no longer a problem. Mei Shuyan had already recovered to the peak of level 8 Xian beast cultivation. It was not easy for her to endure until now, if not for the fact that the art of unlocking heaven's fortune broke through to the second level. Mei Shuyan would have done this before now. Jun Moxie nodded and took out a few jade bottles from his bosom. First, he took out a bone-tempering pill and gave it to Mei Shuyan. Then, he took out the Heavenly Yuan pill, Soul-gathering pill, Vitality linkage pill, Limitless pill, and Heaven Extremes pill. Mei Shuyan did not hesitate. She used the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to dissolve the bone-tempering pill. Then, she took out the Heavenly Yuan pill and swallowed it. After a long time, Emosia, help me get a set of clothes. You go out for a while. Jun Moxie was waiting when he heard a familiar voice in his ear. He was overjoyed and turned around to look. He saw that Mei Shuyan was still in her original form, but she had already opened her mouth to speak. She was staring at him and giving him instructions. It must be known that Mei Shuyan's clothes had been destroyed after she had reverted to her original form. So, she did not need to wait until she had finished taking the Vitality linkage pill, Vitality gathering pill, and Heavenly Yuan pill. Then, she could easily transform. As for the mysterious extreme pill and the Heaven Extremes pill, Mei Shuyan obviously wanted to transform into her human form. That way, she could achieve the greatest effect. But she would have to face the awkward situation of being naked once she transformed into her human form. So, the first thing Mei Shuyan wanted to do was to drive this ruffian out. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Why do you want to go out first? It's not like I haven't seen it before. We are an old couple. You don't have to treat me like an outsider. Jun Moxie rubbed his chin and smiled evilly. His eyes twinkled. Jun Dashao, who had regained his calmness, started to spout nonsense again. You? Oh, I'll just wait for a few more days. I'm not in a hurry anyway. Plus, I don't have enough power to transform. More haste makes waste. It's better for me to stabilize myself. There's no need to rush. Mei Shuyan had a lot of ways to deal with Jun Moxie. Her words made Jun Dashao anxious. My dear lady, I've been waiting so long for you to transform again. Why are you telling me that you're not in a hurry at this crucial moment? You're not in a hurry, but I am. Okay. I'll give you the clothes. I'll go out now. Is that okay? Jun Moxie had no choice but to compromise. He secretly gritted his teeth. Little guy, when you transform into your human form, I'll definitely let you know how powerful I am. Jun Dashao took out a set of clothes and placed on the ground. Then he left the Hongjun Pagoda. When he came in again, Jun Moxie looked out and suddenly felt dizzy. In front of him, a familiar figure in white stood quietly in the thick spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Under the illumination of the mysterious tree, a pair of beautiful eyes were looking at Jun Moxie with longing, deep affection, and glistening tears. It was as if a fairy from the 9 heavens had suddenly appeared. Fairy Lingbo was alive, and Chong, he from the Moon Palace, had descended. It's been a long time, Mei Shuyan. Perhaps I'm a failure in the aspect of being a human. Tonight, I've been thinking about the plot while drinking wine. So, one of my brothers drank with me, but I raised my glass and clinked it with another. Another brother said that I can't drink liquor and asked me to bring beer. But I stood up and brought a bottle of vinegar. In short, old readers who are familiar with me can see that when I'm blindly piling up flowery words, I've encountered a bottleneck. As for me, I'm doing my best to overcome this bottleneck. The plot has been planned long ago. But the most helpless thing is that when I wanted to write about a tiger, I ended up drawing a cat. This is a problem of feeling. The busyness of the spring festival has undeniably affected me greatly. Extremely. So, during this period of time, whether I'm at my relative's house or in my own house, whether I'm sitting or lying down, I've been thinking about the plot. I want to write as fast as I can without any pause and in one go. Return. These 2 days, I've had some sort of feeling. That's why I have the courage to write this paragraph. It's also my sincerest apology to my brothers and sisters. Being distracted will only make me a joke. After the busyness of the spring festival, I'll start to break out continuously. I'll give all my time to you. To Xie Jun. I'll say this very sincerely. I hope you'll support me. Thank you. During this period of time, the spring festival has left me with no battle strength and no fighting spirit. I hope you can give me confidence. Give me motivation. Tomorrow is the last busy day of the spring festival. After tomorrow's dinner, the spring festival will be history for me. I'll start working hard. Work hard. Please support me with your monthly votes. Chapter 834. Jun Moxie wanted to smile, but he found that the muscles on his face were stiff. He wanted to go forward, but he found that he couldn't move his feet. The huge surprise made him completely unable to control himself. The joy and happiness of regaining what he had lost filled his heart in an instant. Although he knew that this day would come, although he clearly knew that he would see the beauty that he hadn't seen for a long time when he came in again, although he felt that he was completely prepared to welcome the return of Mei Xuan, but Jun Moxie still couldn't bear it when it came to the last minute. It turned out that such a huge feeling of happiness also came with a huge pressure. Shua! Yin. Jun Moxie felt that his own voice was inexplicably trembling. In fact, it was extremely difficult for him to even utter those two words. His throat was dry, and there was a kind of feeling of happiness at the tip of his nose. In the thick spiritual energy, that white figure trembled violently. Her eyelashes lightly blinked, and 2 drops of tears suddenly fell lightly. The spiritual energy mist surged, scattered, and gathered again. Mei Xuan moved slightly, took 2 steps, and looked at Jun Moxie. Her delicate body suddenly trembled more and more violently, and there was a sad smile on her face. Suddenly, she squatted on the ground and covered her face with both hands. Tears gushed out from the gaps between her fair and smooth fingers. Jun Moxie let out a low and hoarse roar from his throat. The next moment, he had already tightly hugged the beauty in front of him. And at this moment, Mei Xuan also threw away all her previous reservations and silently shed tears of joy as she hugged him tightly. During this period of time, the 2 of them still met every day. But after Mei Xuan recultivated this time, the moment they met again in human form, both of them had the same feeling that it was a lifetime ago, as if it had been too long since the last time they met. The 2 of them hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's most real existence, but neither of them said a word. After a long time, Mei Xuan gently broke free from Jun Moxie's embrace. Her face was full of shyness, and she lightly brushed her hair and softly said, "Have I changed? You've changed. You've become even more beautiful. You used to be as beautiful as a fairy, but now you're like a fairy that has transformed into a human. You're even more beautiful than you were in the past." Jun Moxie looked greedily at the beautiful face in front of him as he exclaimed in admiration, "You're still so glib." During this period of time, Mei Xuan's eyes became moist again. She wanted to say something, but she forcefully held it back and said in a slightly hoarse voice, "It's all thanks to you." Although she didn't say the words that she didn't want to say, both of them knew that during this period of time, Mei Xuan was at the lowest point of her life, and it was also the time when she felt the most inferior. During this period of time, if Jun Moxie showed the slightest bit of abnormality, there was no need to hate or abandon him. As long as he showed some care and concern, it would be enough to make the extremely sensitive Mei Xuan fall into eternal damnation. But fortunately, Mei Xuan wasn't disappointed. From the beginning to the end, Jun Moxie treated her with the same attitude as before. He didn't purposely show any affection, and he didn't show too much care and concern. His emotions didn't even fluctuate a bit. Everything was the same as before. But only this simple and warm feeling was sincere from the bottom of her heart. A promise that expressed too much sincerity would instead reveal the uncertainty in one's heart. Mei Shui-yin understood this logic, and so did Jun Emosia. Everything was expressed in silence. Words were useless. Actions had proven everything. Mei Shui-yin concentrated on her cultivation, trying to recover as soon as possible. But wasn't Jun Dashao also fighting with his own state of mind? Neither increasing nor decreasing, and maintaining the original intention was the most difficult to achieve. Although Mei Shui-yin had successfully recultivated, Jun Moxie's state of mind had also improved during this period of time. The benefits of this place could not be said to be small. Silly girl. How could Jun Moxie not understand what Mei Shui-yin meant? He sniffled and smiled. You and I are one. Don't you know that if I break down first and lose my original intention, you will naturally break down too? But if you break down first, what will happen to me? He stretched out his hands and pulled Mei Shui-yin into his arms again. He sighed happily. We are one. Mei Shui-yin had no intention of struggling. She gently tilted her head and snuggled against her lover's broad and thick chest. Her face was peaceful and blissful. She didn't say anything. At this moment, there was no need to say anything, because no matter what she said, it was unnecessary. There was no need for it. The original intention was still the same, and the true feelings were everlasting. The purple spiritual energy in the Hongjun Pagoda started to spread, and the light from the tree shone on the two of them. The two of them stayed in this position, hugging each other, and didn't move for a long time. After a long time, Jun Moxie broke the silence with a chuckle. Da Xiao breathed in the fragrance of Mei Shui-yin's body and said contentedly, My wife, let's find a time to consummate our marriage. You don't know, I've been holding it in for so long that I'm about to explode. If you don't believe me, you can touch me. A pervert was a pervert after all. The moment he opened his mouth, he revealed his true colors, but this pervert could really break the ice the moment he opened his mouth. Mei Shui-yin snorted and pushed him away. She was both annoyed and amused at the same time. She was still feeling extremely touched, and this guy said something so inappropriate. He even said, touch me. Was that something that could be touched so casually? He was really shameless. It was infuriating. Then go find your sister, Wan. What do you want from me? Mei Shui-yin's face was red. She struggled out of his arms and smiled mischievously. Suddenly, she flew into the air and floated far away. Just by floating, she had already revealed her high level of Qin Gong, which was not inferior to the past at all. Mei Shui-yin had only just transformed into her human form, but she already possessed an outstanding Qin Gong that was not inferior to the past. If her strength was really restored to its previous state, how fast would her Qin Gong reach? I'm very tired without you all this time. Jun Moxie sighed. He didn't have any intention of chasing after her. He just stood there and looked at Mei Shui-yin's fairy-like figure. He sighed and said, Now that you're back, it's so good to have you here. Mei Shui-yin stopped and sighed. I know. Mei Shui-yin's eyes were fixed on Qian Sun, who was lying quietly on the heaven and earth spiritual vein. Her eyes revealed a gloomy expression as she said, When I saw Qian Sun lying here that day, I knew. So I didn't ask. I didn't want to ask, and I couldn't bear to ask. She looked at Jun Moxie affectionately and said confidently, But I believe everything will be fine. Qian Sun will wake up. I'm the best example of that. Jun Moxie nodded heavily. Yes, she will definitely wake up. Mei Shui-yin basically knew everything that Jun Moxie had done during this period of time, so there was no need for Jun Dashao to explain. The two of them just stood there quietly for a while, feeling extremely complicated. Now that they had reunited and successfully transformed, the two of them were so happy that it felt like their hearts were about to explode. It seemed like no matter how they celebrated, they wouldn't be able to express the excitement and happiness in their hearts. However, the Snake King's injury and the situation during this period of time had caused the joy of their reunion to be tinged with a tinge of worry. all kinds of feelings gathered in their hearts. The two of them felt like there were thousands of words in their hearts, but they couldn't say them. Shui Yin, what is your cultivation level now? Let's hear it. June Moxie broke the silence. Previously, I was at the peak of level 8. After consuming the 3 types of elixirs, my cultivation and physique accumulated to a certain level, allowing me to make a breakthrough and successfully reach the peak of the 9th level of the form transformation realm, which is to say, I directly jumped to the supreme realm. After that, I took the extreme mystery pill and the extreme heaven pill, which allowed me to take another step forward. Now, although I haven't fully recovered to my previous state, my strength is still slightly lacking compared to before I came out of Tian Fa. I should be around the middle level of the venerable realm. Mei Shuiyin slightly furrowed her beautiful brows and said, with my current cultivation level, coupled with my newly obtained mystical art of unlocking heaven's fortune, I should have no problem protecting myself if I were to deal with ordinary experts with a level for venerable as my limit. But to help you deal with experts at the level of a holy king or holy emperor, I still don't have the strength to help you. Mei Shuiyin felt a little dissatisfied. Although her current progress was already very fast, and even something she didn't dare to dream about, June Moxie was now going to fight against the main force of the 3 holy lands at any time. Her current battle strength was far from enough. But June Moxie's mouth was already wide open in shock. Looking at the beauty in front of him, his jaw almost dropped to the ground. He remembered very clearly that when he broke through the 2nd level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, he was only at the level of Yuxian. Breaking through the 3rd level, he was only at the level of Tian Xian. Compared to the current Mei Shuiyin, there was actually a difference of more than 10 levels. How could this be? Compared to anyone else, no matter how big the gap was, it shouldn't be this big, right? After I broke through the 2nd level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, I should have reached the peak of the Earth Xian realm, close to the level of Tian Xian. Mei Shuiyin saw his confusion and charmingly rolled her eyes at him. She smiled sweetly and said, "You should know that after I broke through, I took 5 elixirs in a row. This is equivalent to increasing the purity of my cultivation by almost 200 years. You have forgotten about this? But that's still faster than me. It's still a little too much." Jun Daxiao still felt that it was a little unfair. He felt that he was actually lowering his head in front of this beauty. This feeling of defeat made him very depressed. In his heart, he really wanted to grab this beauty in front of him and slap her plump little butt to get back at him. Don't be so unsatisfied. Those magical abilities of yours, I don't have them. Mei Shuiyin glared at him. Chapter 835. Yesterday's second night watch. Cough, cough. I'm ashamed. There will be at least 2 more night watch tonight. Furthermore, June Moxie was a pioneer and had already created his own path. Mei Shuiyin had followed his experience and practiced step by step so that she wouldn't take unnecessary detours. This naturally saved her a lot of time and effort. In addition, a Xian bee's cultivation speed was much faster than that of a human's. This series of encounters had led to Mei Shuiyin having such an abnormal rate of progress. But there was also a flaw. When June Moxie had broken through, every breakthrough had been accompanied by a lot of benefits from the Hongjun Pagoda. Regardless of whether it was skills or treasures, they were all good things that could only be encountered and not sought. But Mei Shuiyin obviously didn't have the same kind of encounters. Because even though she was cultivating in the Hongjun Pagoda, but she wasn't the true owner of the Hongjun Pagoda. Therefore, even though Mei Shuiyin practiced the same cultivation technique, she couldn't achieve the same results as June Moxie. For example, June Moxie opened the 1st level and obtained the yin-yang escape, and the 2nd level was the flame of primal chaos and the furnace of good fortune, and these Mei Shuiyin didn't obtain. June Moxie frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said thoughtfully, "I'll teach you a few more mnemonics. After you've memorized them, try to practice them. Let's see if you can practice them. If you can, then that's great. If you can't, then there's no need to force yourself." Mei Shuiyin saw that he was speaking in a serious tone and couldn't help but nod her head seriously. The heavens are divided into Qian Kuan, and the earth is divided into yin and yang. Yin and yang are the reincarnation of all living things. At the beginning of the human body, there was nothing but yin and yang. Creation is born, creation is lost. Therefore, it can be hidden in yin and yang. All living things can be hidden, and the human body can also be hidden. This was the mnemonics for the yin-yang escape. Jun Moxie recited it word by word. The yin-yang escape could be said to be the world's most invincible martial art, as long as he had the yin-yang escape. Even if he was only a Silver Xian expert, a Saint Emperor would not be able to harm him. The following battles inevitably became more and more dangerous, and the strength of the enemies she had to face also became higher and higher. Although Mei Shuiyan's current strength was not bad, it was still far from enough to face the experts of the Holy Emperor. She could not even protect herself. Perhaps only by learning the yin-yang escape could Mei Shuiyan be able to protect her life under any circumstances. To Jun Moxie, the lives of his loved ones were more important than anything else. Jun Moxie had previously asked Jun Wui to practice this martial art, but Jun Wui was completely unable to cross the threshold. It seemed like this martial art also differed from person to person. In other words, only those who practiced the art of unlocking heaven's fortune could practice this mysterious escape technique. At this moment, facing Mei Shuiyan, Jun Moxie was actually only thinking of giving a try. If he succeeded, Mei Shuiyan would have a powerful life-saving talisman forever. Mei Shuiyan was deep in thought as she earnestly memorized the mnemonics. With her innate intelligence, she quickly memorized the mnemonics word for word. This is the main gist of my secret technique, the yin-yang escape. After practicing it, you can hide yourself in the void at any time. Regardless of whether it is metal, wood, water, fire, or earth, you can hide yourself perfectly. Moreover, no smell or smell will leak out. It can be said to be the world's most mysterious martial art. Jun Moxie said deeply, "You must seize the time to practice it. This is my greatest treasure for hiding myself and escaping." Although he said it casually, Mei Shuiyan was shocked. To be able to hide in the void at any time, she finally understood what Jun Mo Xie's mystical agility was. It had shocked the entire world. It turned out that there was such a mysterious martial art in this world. Moreover, Jun Mo Xie had imparted this unique skill to her without any reservations. This made her feel even more sweet in her heart, and she felt extremely happy. It was not only because of this martial art, but also because of Jun Moxie's sincerity. This kind of mysterious martial art was always kept a secret. Even a married couple was no exception, but Jun Moxie did it. This meant that Jun Moxie was using his actions to tell Mei Shuiyan, "No matter what happens, I will never doubt you." However, when it came to action, it was 10,000 times more important than saying it out loud. Mo Xie, you will be fine, and I will be fine too. Mei Shuiyan's eyes were red. "Silly girl, even if I don't teach it to you now, I will teach it to our son and daughter in the future. What kind of secret is this? Don't think too much, it's tiring." Jun Moxie laughed. "If you really feel guilty, why don't you pick a striptease for me? As long as you dance for me, I will be very happy, and you will feel guilty too. My idea is not bad, right? Get lost." Mei Shuiyan kicked him angrily. Why does this guy always say such things when I am touched? The two of them reunited after a long time. Naturally, Jun Moxie wanted to be intimate with Mei Shuiyan. Although Mei Shuiyan did not seem to be willing, she did not really have much resistance in her heart. However, both of them suppressed their impulses and chose to continue waiting. All of this was because the Snake King was still in the Hongjun Pagoda. Although the Snake King was completely unconscious, how could Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyan not be touched when the Qiansun Serpent Queen was injured because of Jun Moxie? The Snake King had never revealed anything before. However, the two of them were well aware of the feelings that the Snake King had buried deep in her heart. If both of them were to be so intimate, both of them would feel ashamed. Regardless of whether Green Hunter could see it or not, whether she could sense it or not. This was an extremely cruel thing to her. Mei Shuiyin continued to stay in the Hongjun Pagoda to comprehend the yin-yang escape. Jun Moxie once again guided the primordial violet qi through Qian Sun's meridians, trying his best to stabilize her vitality. Then he left in a flash. Previously, he had already spent a lot of time waiting for Mei Shuiyin to break through. If the three holy lands were really fast, they might have already arrived at Chrysanthemum City by now. Jun Moxie still needed to make a good plan on how to fight this battle. Although he was full of confidence when he spoke to Dongfang Wenqing, victory was always reserved for those who were prepared. It was never wrong to be careful. Therefore, Jun Daxiao used the yin-yang escape and silently hid in the void, sneaking into the Chrysanthemum City. Because the moment he came out of the Hongjun Pagoda, Jun Moxie could clearly feel that in just a day's time, this Chrysanthemum City had already changed. Truly, with the passage of time, things remained the same, but the people had changed. From the outside, Chrysanthemum City was still the original Chrysanthemum City, and the scenery was still the same. But with a little probing with divine sense, one could instantly sense that there were countless tyrannical divine senses in the city. These tyrannical divine senses converged into a huge net above Chrysanthemum City, constantly monitoring every move of everyone in Chrysanthemum City. No one was an exception. No one could be an exception. Feeling the tyrannical divine senses that filled the entire world, Jun Daxiao also secretly clicked his tongue. It seemed that this time, the three holy lands had really put in a lot of effort. They actually sent out such a shocking number of top experts at one go. Jun Mo Xie carefully avoided the probing of the other party's spiritual sense. Then, he revealed himself and walked quietly on the street towards the direction of the Qin Manor. The closer they got, the more they felt the surging and surging divine perception envelop them, and it grew stronger and denser. Presently, it wouldn't be going too far to say that the entire Qin estate was set up like an iron wall. Jun Moxie laughed in his heart. Looks like the three holy lands had still set their target on the Chun family. They were certain that if he made any moves, they would definitely start with the Chun family and incite conflict between the two sides. The Chun family's Chun Qing Tian, just based on the strength and status of the people they had sent out, could no longer be considered a big character. Before this, he was only a small family's patriarch that the three holy lands did not even spare a glance for. But now he was the face of the three holy lands. Jun Moxie had secretly spread the news that the three holy lands had sent out all their experts to protect Chun Qing Tian from assassination. Although most people were skeptical and did not know if it was true or not. Under such circumstances, if Chun Qing Tian was really killed, the three holy lands' reputation would definitely hit rock bottom. Therefore, they had no choice but to protect the Chun family closely. They had no choice but to do so. But Jun Moxie did not intend to do so. Or, it could be said that spreading the news earlier was just a test to see how the three holy lands would react. What Jun Daxiao truly wanted was to completely destroy the three holy lands. It was not something that could end with just the three holy lands' reputation being tarnished. To Jun Daxiao, even if the three holy lands were still the role model of the world after he killed them all, it did not matter. I only want your lives. If all of you die, then I'll be truly happy. Thus, whether or not the Chun family's patriarch had to die, or when he had to die, was actually secondary. Clearly feeling the heavy atmosphere of the Chun family, Jun Moxie smiled lingling. He had already thought of a plan. Jun Mo Xie didn't hesitate any longer and slowly turned around. Then, he followed the crowd and slowly walked back. Just from the surface, the current Jun Daxiao was no different from a normal passerby. His steps were heavy, his eyes cloudy, as though he did not know any martial arts at all. Strands of divine sense swept past his body and turned in another direction. Jun Moxie's expression did not change as he lowered his head and walked hurriedly. Suddenly, Jun Moxie's entire body shook because he felt an aura that shocked him to the core. That was an extremely cold feeling that seemed to rise from his heart and spread throughout his entire body. In this late spring season, Jun Moxie actually felt an inexplicable chill that made his entire body feel like it was about to freeze. It was like the creepy feeling of walking through a mass grave alone on a dark night, without any stars or moon. Even when he was at the coldest peak of the snowy mountain, Jun Moxie did not have such a feeling. But now he felt it, and he felt it very vividly. Jun Mo. Xie clearly remembered that he had just walked through this street, and there hadn't been any abnormalities. In fact, there hadn't been a single trace of it. But he had walked through it and then walked back, and it had only been a short moment. But it had given him two completely different feelings. This was something that he could only detect with his super strong divine sense. That was the most profound aura. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.